Hello, 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 and welcome to the Bada program. I am Dave, and I am joined down there by my buddy Chris. Chris, how the
How's it
heck are
going,
you,
everybody?
dude?
Oh, hanging in there. How about you?
I am also doing the same. I am also hanging in there. Thank you for very much for asking. Which is the stereotypical answer that most people would give. Hanging in there. I'm surviving. How about you?
Hmm.
What if I
Yeah.
told you I was terrible?
I'd be like, dude, that's a rhetorical question.
Okay, you should try.
That's the way it is, right? I
Yeah,
mean, how you doing? Oh,
yeah.
Or who? If I can complain, who'd I complain to? Right?
The
What good would that
therapist.
do?
That's what the whole basis of therapy is based upon. There you go.
Hmm.
You pay
Hmm.
them for that. You can complain to them. So,
This is true.
you know.
This is true.
But I recommend that to everybody. Next time you're at work or in a social environment and someone says, "Hey, how you doing?" Just be like, "Oh, the worst. Oh
Hmm.
my god!" And see how
I'm so
fast.
glad you asked. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you asked because I need to talk about this with somebody.
And see how fast that conversation comes to a close. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's the thing
they'll
right
check their
there.
watch. Oh, I gotta take this.
Yeah, exactly. I totally have to
Sorry.
go.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah, we'll get back to that later. So, speaking of putting pins in things and what have you, let's talk about that after and start some comic book talk. Does that sound good to you? I
Sure.
mean, I guess that's the whole principle of the show, right? Comics.
Yeah, it's at least half of it.
Oh, yeah, it's a good chunk.
At least half of our mission statement.
Right.
Sure.
So, just to lead off on this a little bit,
Hmm.
I'm a strange human being. If you couldn't tell already, maybe you already knew this. I don't know.
It's on a spectrum.
Okay, with that, that also applies to my collecting habits. So,
Hmm.
what I'm curious is, and this question is brought up to you and everybody else out there in the free world. We all know that there are direct edition books, as you can see by the UPC in the bottom of a book, which I was about to pull out a book right
Hmm.
here, just to kind of give an example's
Hmm.
sake. And then in the old days, there'd be one that was newsstand that didn't say direct edition in it. Now, back in the
Sure.
day, in the 80s and what have you, they'd have a little image in there to kind of signify what was what.
Spider Man's head. Yeah.
Yep, that's a famous one. Who watches the Watchmen if it's DC?
Hmm.
And
The new DC ain't no stopping us now.
there you go. So when I collect books now, I might be searching the bins and I am looking in my CLZ and I go, I already have the direct edition of this book, but I don't have the
Hmm.
newsstand. So I want it.
Hmm.
I want that thing. Do you ever kind of try to collect both editions of the book, or is that just moi?
Never both. Never both. One or the other, sure. I don't mind which one I get.
Uh huh.
Like I don't have like a rule where it's like, oh, it has to be all direct or all newsstand. It's whatever I find, really. Um, we'll get into this a bit later, but I did
Sure.
purposely buy a newsstand variant yesterday just for the show. It
Oh,
cost me
great.
an extra dollar, but
The
but
sacrifices
I
you
did
make,
buy
huh?
it. Hey, maybe I can claim it on taxes. Who knows? But but I don't really have a preference either way. And yeah, I don't want to jump around because we have a loose format here where
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna be bebopping from topic to topic. So I don't want
Sure.
to jump ahead. But it seems like it was always kind of a thing in the fandom and in the hobby and in the collecting of this hobby that there are variances. There's always an attempt at multiple versions of the same thing.
Right.
And with that newsstand issue that I bought yesterday, I went through the entire thing to see if there was anything that notated. I checked the indicia. I checked to see if like I don't know if like the back cover was any. Everything was exactly the same except for the barcode.
Mm-hmm.
The
Right.
barcode just didn't say direct edition. That's the only difference I could see.
Well, real quick, I just to explain the significance to me personally, and the reason why I
Mhm.
want them is I actually prefer the newsstand edition because it had to survive a whole heck of a lot more to reach me.
Oh, it's got a story to it. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like it really went to the school of hard knocks before it ended up in
yeah.
my collection, and I can
Its
totally
brothers and
appreciate that
sisters
more.
had their front covers torn off and sent back. So yeah,
Right, yeah, yeah. I mean, or even more modern things. It was in a supermarket. It was in a 7-Eleven. What
sure.
a smoke shop. God, who
Hmm.
knows? And many
Oh
people
yeah.
were picking it up, reading it, and what have you. And so if you get one in a really good condition, even better. But the
Sure,
fact
sure.
that it made it to me is special, you know.
Hmm.
But then that leads us into
It
another
defied
thing.
all odds.
It did. It really defied all odds. But I've had this conversation with other collector friends before, and
Hmm.
I was shocked, absolutely shocked to hear that they consider newsstand and direct editions variants.
Yeah. Yep.
And with that, that the newsstand edition rather, is the variant to the direct edition.
To the direct edition. Hmm.
You could knock me over with a feather. What the hell are they talking about? For real? You
Yeah, I
know?
think when the market turned, everything went. I mean, this is something that Reggie and I talked about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The direct market just took over, and it's interesting. I I always have like all these little projects going on at the same time that largely never get done. But I was doing a Dazzler read through for the blog like a year and a half ago,
Uh-huh.
and I had a wild hair about turning it into a podcast
Sure.
recently, very recently. And a large portion of the first episode is dedicated to the direct marketification of the industry because Dazzler was the first direct market only book. And it sold something like 400,000 copies. It's an insane amount
Mm-hmm.
for a book like Dazzler. They announced they're making a new Dazzler comic, which kind of kiboshed my idea. That's too mainstream for me now.
Right, right.
So, so it's like, okay, I don't want to look like I'm hopping on some sort of a bandwagon here. So I kind of let that one go to the side. But I think when the market made that shift, it became, I mean, the incentive is there for Marvel, DC, etc., to pursue the direct market because those are final sales. Your sales can be as Dazzler, 400,000.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Right,
were sold.
right.
Those were literally sold, bought and paid for by the distributors and the retailers. So Marvel and DC see that and they're like, hey, no worry about returns unless, there's a very unique situation wherein returns are allowed. Of
Mm-hmm.
course they're going to go all in on that.
Well, I mean,
And that's
even
why newsstands dwindled.
right, but even in
And
a more basic sense, newsstands came first
of
before
course,
direct
of
edition.
course.
So why wouldn't the whole variant thing, be in reverse? I don't understand how direct edition would be the main thing. You know what I
Because
mean?
variants in and of themselves weren't a thing until the direct market.
Mm,
I think the
true.
first fake comics historian here, historically, the first variant cover that is widely accepted by most fake ass comics historians is Man of Steel #1.
Okay.
Man of Steel #1 had like that one, like they had a very thematic cover where like 2/3 of the page was an image and then there'd be a character on the side. I think anybody watching would know those by sight.
Right.
But with the first issue, there is like the close up of the chest, Clark opening the shirt with the S on it, and I think it was semi, not prismatic so much, but it was a special kind of ink used in the logo. It was a little bit shinier, not exactly chrome or holographic or nothing, but it was shinier. And so, if that was legitimately the first domino, I think that informs a lot of where minds would go as it pertains to what would be the mainstream and what would be the variant. And
Mm-hmm.
I think at that point, the push was so hard to the direct market that that was looked at as okay, this is the avenue. This is always going to be the way. Newsstand is still kind of a slave to the distributors. They're going to pick. They're not going to necessarily say, okay, I want 20 copies of Man of Steel #1. They're going to say, give me 50 DCs.
Right.
They don't care what they are necessarily. It's newsstands in and of themselves are real estate. They're not going to fill up racks with comics because comics weren't selling. I mean, as well as they were selling in the 80s, it was nothing compared to the 60s, the 50s, even the 70s.
Right.
So they're going to dedicate more room to the glossier magazines, the I guess the adult contempo magazines, the stuff that's actually going to sell for $3 or $4 instead of the comic that's going to sell for 60 to 75 cents.
Right. I
So I
think
think that might inform it.
Not to jump in on you here, but I'm good for
Sure, go ahead.
that. One thing that you failed to mention was that the special ink used
Hmm.
on the cover
Hmm.
of Man of Steel
Hmm.
#1 was made out of John Byrne's blood. Okay,
Do
he
I got to grab the the Squadron Supreme trade here with the Mark Grunwald ashes in it?
oh yes, right, that's the other one, right? Well, of course we all start with Kiss, saying that they put
Yeah.
the blood in their ink and what have you, the whole rumor of that. So yeah.
Yep.
See, I just kind of figured it too as like a speculation play,
Well, yeah.
because speculators always ruin everything. So they're the ones who would say, "Oh yeah, direct markets, that's the one."
Hmm.
And newsstands, those there, them be the variants, you
Oh
know.
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
that's where I was kind of coming from with that too, because yet again, for me, if you were there first, you're the
Hmm.
OG, you're the original. It's not like Dave
Hmm.
Jr. Well, eventually would replace me. There is no child
Sure.
named Dave Jr. for that very reason, because I don't wish to be replaced. Uh, my son's name is Chris, by the way. I named him after you.
Hey,
Well,
you
not
could do,
really.
you could do better. You could do worse, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you get my drift here. You understand where I'm coming from. I would
Sure,
hope.
sure. No, no, I totally get it. I
Yeah.
totally get it. I just think that the worm turned, and the industry knew what they could count on, and they knew what they couldn't.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of industry mags back in, I that's something I collect almost as passionately as I do comics. I love the old magazines. I love the old fanzines. A lot of interesting discussion there, um, and discussion that actually takes thought because they had to actually type it and print it and actually bind it. It's not like you're firing off an email or a tweet, so it's more substantial. And I think that might have had a lot to do with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
You have like the Phil Soolings and stuff, the people, the real straws that stirred the drink and kind of made the fandom turn into what it well, actually made the fandom a fandom. Comics were a generational thing. You grew out of it until the fan turned pro and the fanzines and the Phil Soolings and the cons and the direct market. That kind of made it I would say an all ages hobby, but it really just made it an old man hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. Too true. Too true. And then you had recently picked up a magazine, right? In
Hmm.
your hunts while you've been
I
digging.
did. I dig.
You definitely dig.
I went to one of my favorite haunts, and we were plugging stores, and I guess I can plug this one.
Yeah. Sure.
It's Jesse James Comics, a place that I've gone to for many many years now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a place that has what I lovingly refer to as the garbage boxes.
Oh yeah.
It's the boxes full of the stuff that nobody but people like us would be interested in,
Yes.
like the absolute, just like the nichiest of the niche
Right.
stuff.
Yeah. Love it.
And then, like I found like 3 or 4 issues of Comics Retailer there,
Mm-hmm.
a magazine dedicated to comics retail from the 90s,
Nice.
where they were all trying to speculate. Everything was speculation. It's like, oh, you need to buy Zero Hour number zero. You need this in the thousands of copies. It's ridiculous stuff. It's great though. It's great because it's an awesome time capsule, and it really helps. I'm big into getting into the gestalt of what I'm
Yeah.
reading,
Of
and
course.
it really helps. But the magazine I found there last week, and I almost left it behind because I thought it was garbage, like literal garbage. It's a magazine called Collector's Dream, and it's so interesting because even the cover here, you can see like you got like the old man here who wants to sell comics for an exorbitant rate.
Right.
He's got like Howard the Duck here for tons of money here. On this side, of course, this guy looks a lot nicer, so he is the nicer guy, and he's trying to sell comics for kids to read, and you can see like the price tag here is just pennies. He sold this for pennies here. And speaking about things like variance, speaking about things like speculation, this is amazing to look at because this is a magazine from 1977 or 1978. So going on 50 years old, a half century. And I think a lot of us have rose colored glasses about our earliest days in fandom, right?
Yeah. Of course.
They say nothing's better than when you were 12 years old, right? When you were first discovering or maturing into your hobby or your interest, That's when it's at its best. For me, I was 12 in 1992, so it was literally the best. So that's an inarguable point. But 1977, the same stuff that we have now,
Right.
50 years, 50, 50-ish years later. And it's amazing that like the word speculator is in this magazine dozens of times.
Oh,
I thought that was a 90s thing,
yeah.
and
Right.
of course, I've got a huge stack of Amazing Heroes magazines from the 80s, and speculation did pop in there, and Comics Journal and stuff like that. But seeing something from the mid late 70s with speculation and people lamenting speculation already,
Mm-hmm.
it's so weird to see. It's like, I think last week we talked about how the industry doesn't really learn its lessons. Um, we did the glut of speculation back in the 90s,
Right.
the holograms, the prisms, the all these celebratory issues that didn't amount to anything. And now we're doing the same thing with variant covers, so proving that we learned zero. Then we can go back 20 years even before the 90s glut, and they were already dealing with similar stuff. And it's just so wild to see. Half of this magazine is dedicated to people taking out ads, looking to buy and sell things.
Mm-hmm.
So like there are people in here asking like, hey, does anybody have an Action Comics #1? I'll pay you $1,000 for it.
Yeah.
And it's so friggin' wild. Um, I mean, anybody who finds a shop with garbage boxes in it, like the moldy looking stuff in the corner, look through it. I definitely encourage you to do so because you don't know what you'll find in there.
Yeah.
And I mean, this thing isn't in great condition. It's not going to resell for anything. I'm not looking to resell it for anything. But it's a wild little slice of history, and further proof that the more things change, the more they don't.
Yeah.
Everything is the same.
Very true. You know,
I mean, and we go ahead.
no, I was going to say that, we always associate speculation with the bubble, the 90s,
Sure.
as you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But now,
Mm-hmm.
when you pick up that magazine going back to the 70s, you're seeing the evolution of it. You know what I mean?
Oh
How
yeah.
how speculators crawled out of the primordial ooze as little slugs before they started
Yep.
walking and getting hair and whatever, figuring out how to use fire. Uh,
Losing their gills.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? You know what I mean? And you'd mentioned when you were 12, you're not aware of that. Like everything's still
Nope.
the collecting is new, it's rosy, it's fresh.
Oh yeah.
The optimism is off the charts. You know what I mean? So you don't.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you're not aware of it. But damn,
Yep.
there's always been this underlying nature of it. You know,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh
that
yeah.
that just it sucks so bad. But
It's
that's
it.
human
There's
nature.
something very exploitative about it.
Yeah,
Yes.
but that's human nature. That's what we do. We exploit other
Oh yeah.
people
That's what we
always,
do
always throughout the
for
history of
sure.
mankind. So why would it not infect fandom?
That's how we
You know what I
survive.
mean?
Yeah.
And then I would hope that I was older than speculation, but it appears I'm not. So it
Mm-mm.
predates me,
Nope.
you know?
Predates us.
Yes.
Predates us both. And we talked about how close we are nowadays with the creators last week.
Yeah.
How you could fire off a tweet and you can either make Tom King's day or you can make him think you're threatening his life by saying your Batman wasn't as good as everybody says it was.
Hmm.
That's a death threat now. But back in 1977 here, similar stuff. Marv Wolfman, who we talked about a little bit last time, wrote a letter to this fanzine here, and he says, I gotta my bar-sightedness here. Um, he talks about how it was nice to see a zine that had reasonable criticism and thought-out comments instead of diatribes.
Uh huh.
And Marv Wolfman started in the fan press
Right.
and then became a pro,
Hmm.
and he's complaining about how the fan press is basically, I hate the word toxic, but is basically toxic. It's insane. This is 50 years ago.
Right.
And creators are already kind of showing their ass here, showing that they're not really keen on criticism. They're not real. I mean, who wants criticism? But to kind of broadly brush an entire swath of the fandom as just being diatribe laden is, I don't know, really shows a thin skin.
Hmm.
And I thought that was something that was just post social media.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's like we discussed. Criticism without context is just garbage, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
if you just panning something just to be like, "Oh, you suck,"
Yeah,
it's got no
yeah,
value
you're
to it.
garbage.
But I mean,
Yeah.
to know that creators are still wounded if you actually have good reasoning for not
Hmm.
liking something is
Sure.
thin-skinned. I think you just mentioned
Hmm.
there. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I. By the way, how did that book smell? You were so damn close to it when you were
It
reading it.
smelled like old paper. It smelled like old paper.
If you can
Yeah.
only bottle that
No
smell,
joke.
man.
No joke. And
Oh,
if you're in the Phoenix area and you like that smell, Jesse James Comics
there
will
you
get
go.
you
There you go.
get you your fix.
Well, I was gonna say Kramer had the beach back on
Yes.
Seinfeld. I would love musty newsprint.
Mm-hmm.
That would be
Mm-hmm.
my smell of
Yep.
choice, and I would totally
They
bathe in
do
it.
stand.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Right.
And then you have the direct market. You have the variants of your scent.
uh,
The
they
direct market.
they toilet. There you go. Yeah, that is kind of mind blowing though that it goes back that far. When you first told me about that, I was like, "Wait, really? For real?" So I
Hmm.
think this is the Bada Binge show where my mind just kind of melts and drips out my ear, being between the
It's
whole very ain't of the newsstand to direct edition, and now speculation going back to the
mhm.
times of ancient Egypt. You
And
know.
back to what we started with here with the newsstand variant.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start hearing it being referred to as a variant rather than just, oh, there's two versions of this?
It was a while ago. I was talking to a friend. You know him as well. His name is Sean, even though he spells his name like a hooker. Uh,
Haggerty?
Yeah, yeah, because it's got a W instead of a, I think
Hmm.
so. Whatever, unless I got that wrong. So Sean, I'm sorry, but you still spell your name like a prostitute. But anyway, I had mentioned something in reverse about how like the
Uh-huh.
direct edition would be considered a variant, if at all.
Hmm.
And he was like, "No, no, no, my friend, no, no, no," and he set me straight. And I did a little googling, a little looking into it, and I was like, "Wait, Sean's right. This is
But
ridiculous."
but
And
this is within the past like handful of
yeah,
years
yeah,
though.
exactly. Right, right. It's
Like
it's
this isn't
fairly
like back
recent.
in the 90s or
No,
anything.
no,
This is recent.
no. This is within probably the last year or so. But I suck with
Okay, so
timelines.
post the glut of
Oh
variants.
yeah, this is new to me, basically.
Like post the like you can't even open an Overstreet price guide now because 5 pages are going to be dedicated to the same damn issue,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
This is all
Okay, so
fairly recent. Why? Why are you
that's
asking?
what
What are you
because
trying
I'm
to get at?
wondering if because variant, the
Mm-hmm.
word in and of itself is kind of the new hotness in retail and in distribution and in a lot of things, not just comics. I mean, my wife is a Swiftie. She's big into Taylor Swift. Broad just put out several albums, or put out one album
Yeah.
with so many variants. You, I mean, you can cave in a mailbox.
Right.
So variants are they're just the thing now. There are because I think everybody with the push to digital from physical, I think there's a real hard push into making sure that physical can kind of maintain itself.
Mm-hmm.
And since Marvel, DC, whoever can't count on people buying every book they put on the stand because I mean, what is that law where like 90% of everything is garbage? I don't remember whose law
That
that
is
is, but
Christopher's law, as a matter of fact.
but there is an actual like not Murphy's law, but there is like a law of somebody where like 90% of everything is garbage. It was a sci-fi writer or a sci-fi reviewer back in the 80s that the law is named after when he basically said that 90% of sci-fi is garbage, but then he said, well, 90% of everything is garbage. So that extends to everything. So Marvel DC can't count on people coming to the shops every single week to buy every single one of their books. So what they got to do is exploit the people who do come out. And that's people like us and people who are even more afflicted than us, the people who are completionists to the nth degree rather than just completionists. And that's how these variants sell, and that's how multiple copies of multiple books get sold. And I think that that being kind of in the ethos right now and kind of in the lexicon, I think that's why we're seeing this direct market newsstand variant being I can't say it's being pressed hard since it's just us talking about it,
Yeah,
but it's
well,
pressed harder than it has been in the past, I
it's
think.
out there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So you may say it's only us talking about it. If you go do a little bit of research on it, it's
Oh, I'm sure it's
considered
out
the
there.
rule.
Sure.
It's the law.
Yeah.
So,
But I think if you get more casual fans, if those even exist anymore,
hmm
and you show them a newsstand and a direct market from the 80s or 90s, they're going to be like, "Ah, it's the same book." But if you show them all 7,000 covers of Star Wars #1, they're going to be like, "Oh, those are all variants."
hmm
Like they'll be able to spot them by sight
yeah,
because
of
they're
course,
different images.
right.
Whereas we're looking at just like a difference in the corner box, like or the difference in like the top corner box where like the Marvel logo is like just an M or it's the Marvel. It's like, oh, okay,
hmm
that's the same thing. What's the big deal? But I think the fact that it's being pushed as variant now and is being discussed as variant now has a lot to do with just the atmosphere around the industry,
Yeah.
where it's no longer, back when we were growing up on the cover of books, it would say collector's item.
hmm
They don't do that anymore because I mean that was silly back then. It's even sillier now. Now it's just variants.
Right.
Now it's like, okay, well I know this is the 1 in 25 variant. Oh, I know this is the 1 in 1000 pencil variant. Because that's what the apps tell them. And
Yeah.
that's what the comic shop will tell them because they'll put them on, they'll bag and board them, put them on the wall, and it's like, why is this same book? Why is this 3.99 book $500 right here?
Right.
Oh well, there's only 1 out of 1,000 of those.
Yeah.
It's kind of just in the ethos,
And I know
and I
it's a
mean,
collector's edition because there is a cover 1Z, right? That's when you know it's a landmark issue when you have that many variants from basically the big two or three publishers, you know?
sure, sure, or dynamite somehow.
Well, Dynamite, we talked about this last time out. Everything is variant heavy, but I
Yeah,
mean,
a company that probably struggles to sell 20 copies of each book somehow has
hmm
25 variants on each issue.
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
And I'm being, hyperbolic, of course, but
right. I will
you know,
add, real quick, the when you're talking about spotting variants, and this kind of connects to your collector's edition, tag on the cover too. I
hmm
want to say it was around, well, it's the new 52 era, so it was like 2010, 2012, what have you. It would be a little bit harder to differentiate what was what based on the UPC or corner box because there wasn't art in there anymore. It would just
yeah,
simply say direct edition or not. But
yeah. That was the issue I bought yesterday.
okay, right. But
Yeah.
during that same era, I was kind of shocked, and I shouldn't have been. I mean, I've seen something similar before, but I went to a comic shop living in New Jersey at the time, and I want to say it was Superior Spider-Man, and there's a
Okay.
huge #1 on the cover. It was like #1, and then in smaller print, it was like of this storyline or of the Goblin
Oh yeah,
Saga.
I like that.
Yeah, well, I don't because I think that's just out to trick people. And I
Oh, it
looked,
is. It 100%
yeah, and
is.
I looked
But
at
it
it,
doesn't interrupt the run.
yeah, and I looked at some kid's gonna pick this up thinking they got Superior Spider-Man #1 or something, and they really
hmm
got issue 22, but they got a big #1, bam.
But it's a jumping
Oh,
on point.
okay,
But it's a
yes,
jumping on point,
right, okay,
which we don't get anymore.
true,
We really do. We get all we get is new #1s. Period.
exactly.
Um, Marvel was kind of playing both sides of the fence there because
Mm-hmm.
around that time you would get those like part one of this story. Cool, whatever. At least it doesn't interrupt the run. At least we're not in a new volume, whatever. But they also had the point one issues, which
Yes.
were also supposed. It's so weird being in the comics bubble because that is so. That's just part and parcel of what that point one is. It's the comics bubble.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you and I have talked about another bit of the comics bubble, and I think we came on opposite sides of it. But we'll talk about that after I try to make this point, I guess.
Sure.
Um, the point one issues. If you are an uninitiated, John Byrne would call them a civilian. Some people online would call them normies, whatever. People who aren't invested, people who aren't going to the comic shop, people who, like we talked about last week, only go to the comic shop on days that start with the word free. Those people. So you see point one, you see Amazing Spider-Man number 654.1. What new reader in their right mind is going to buy that issue? Or even know what it is?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. That's very confusing.
Half the retailers didn't know how to explain it. So it's Marvel playing both sides of the fence there, just exploiting the few of us that are left. Relatively speaking, of course, because there's thousands of us. But the another thing about being in the bubble here that I think we came on opposite sides of. I can't remember if I was talking to you about it or Reggie, but whoever I was talking about it, we came on opposite sides. The Walmart Giants. Remember the Walmart
Yeah, I think
Giants?
we've discussed those before, but I mean, I don't know if it was like an on-air situation or off.
No, no, I think it was just just texting between us,
Okay.
where I said that $5, because those were $4.99 for 100 pages. So for people inside the bubble like us, insane deal, because we're
Hmm.
paying $4 for 20 pages. So $5 for 100 pages, badass, great. But I argued that $5 is still way too expensive for someone who doesn't care about comics.
Yeah.
For like the lapsed fan, the parent who was a fan back in the day, who used to buy comics for 75 cents, they're online at Walmart, they see $5 for a comic book, and their kid's like, hey, can I get, well, the kid won't ask for it, um,
Right.
but I think $5 is a high barrier of entry
Hmm.
for the uninitiated, which I argued meant that these comics were for people like us, despite the fact that they were being marketed as expanding the readership, growing the audience, growing the fandom. It was only us buying them. And I remember when those things first hit, people were going nuts for them because not every Walmart got them.
Hmm.
So you'd have some of those lucky few on Twitter sharing like their stack. I bought 10 copies of giant size Superman #1.
Yep. Look out,
Ooh, can
eBay.
I get that? I'll pay you $20 for it, you know.
Hmm.
Ridiculous stuff which further kind of circulates the rarefied air that we live in as being inside this bubble.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the point I was making here, but we were talking about the variants and Marvel jumping around. But
Well, to stop you then, since you don't
sure,
remember what the hell you're talking about. Um,
that's one of my
you
problems.
did say
Anybody
that
who's listened to me knows that.
a great value for all those pages. Well, in essence,
Sure.
you're still paying $5 for less than 20 pages of new material. Okay?
Nowadays.
Well, with the Walmart
Oh,
Giants.
even then, because those were like 10 pagers. Yeah.
Yeah, they were really small short stories and then
Mm-hmm.
everything else was a reprint of something.
Reprint.
Yeah.
Yep, because it was for completionists. Because
Right.
that was another thing that told me that it was for us.
Mhm.
It's like, here's a because I'm a Teen Titans completionist. So it's like you had an issue of Teen Titans from 2003. You had one of the New Age of Heroes things. I think it was like Sideways or something.
Mhm.
And then there was like an issue of like maybe it's like Young Justice from like 1990 something. And then you had this 12-page, brand new, never before seen, will never be reprinted until it is,
Right.
story by Dan Jurgens, which somehow took place in every continuity.
Mhm.
It's like a team that could have never existed, a team of Titans that could have never come together unless it was like convergence. It's like we got someone from the pre-crisis, someone post-crisis, post-zero hour, new 52. What the hell am I looking at here? Ridiculous stuff.
Well, you had to bring up Sideways, which makes me want to rant. It makes
Hit
me
me.
want to go off. Well, the thing was when that whole Dark Knight's Metal,
Yeah,
those titles came out. I was
the New Age of Heroes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I knew it. Thank you. I was screaming from the rooftop, "Hey, Terrifics! That's Fantastic Four! Hey,
Hmm.
that James Tinian, Jim Lee one. I can't think of the name right now. That's X Men.
Oh
On and
yeah,
on.
there was Spider-Man, there was the
Sideways
Hulk.
was Spider Man.
Yep,
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
Damage was
Hmm.
Hulk. Silencer was Punisher,
Yep.
and no one was buying what I was selling on
Yeah, no
that.
one got that.
Nobody.
Yeah.
And then after the line inevitably failed, went away. I started reading comments on social media where people like, well, the problem was that they were just ripping off Marvel, and I'm like, yeah, hello, hello, Norman, hello, like for real,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I mean that was like the first thing a few of us saw.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
when we saw that like widescreen lineup, it's like,
yeah.
that's kind of marvelous, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of a whole heck of a lot. And then just real quick back to the Walmart Giants is
Sure.
you did mention we're in the bubble, so it was made for people like us. True.
Yeah.
But I could also see, and this is just a sliver of hope. This is my 12-year
Hmm.
old optimism bursting from my chest, my inner child trying to escape. Some kid picks it up in Walmart, flips through it, and goes, "Hey, wait, Batman, what's this whole thing with the Court of Owls? You know, maybe I should."
Could you imagine?
I know. But listen, let me play devil's advocate here. And they decide I'm going to go look for that, or I want to check out this version of Batman, or maybe I
Mm,
like the Robo Batman. I'm going to look up Jim Gordon as Batman. You know, and of course
mm.
I'm bringing up Scott Snyder's run here, but
Sure, because
just to
I think that
say,
was reprinted in there. Yeah.
yeah, just to say maybe, just maybe it could happen. I don't know, but
I don't know,
I
because
want
like
to
you go to the other side of Walmart and you could buy a Batman action figure for a couple
there
bucks more,
you go.
or you can go across the parking lot to GameStop and get a used copy of Arkham
Right.
Asylum for
You
$5.
could.
So,
You can go on Amazon and buy the T-shirt with the cover of the
hmm,
Batman issue that you're hunting down.
yep, and the
Uh,
Funko Pop,
there you
and
go.
yep,
Cheaper than the issue would be itself in the back issue bins.
yeah.
But Chris, I want to change gears real quick here. I want
Hit me.
to do a couple different things. First off, we do have someone in our chat,
What?
Jody. Yes, Jody Yearden.
Hey, Jody.
Or did I say Yurden? Because there's no A in it. So I listen. I mispronounced everything, but I want to read a couple of his comments real quick. From
Sure.
earlier in this show, he wrote, "I'm definitely down for a Go for It, a Dazzler podcast. You sick sob? No, no.
It was gonna it was gonna be called Mutant at the Disco, like Panic at the Disco.
Very
Yeah.
clever, very clever.
That is one. I have very very few talents in this world, and
Hmm.
naming things is one of them.
There you go. You Weird Al, eat your heart out. And then he also
Hmm.
wrote, I apologize if it wasn't covered in the first episode. Still getting caught up, but where do you guys fall on the subject of facsimile additions? Well, Jody, it
We did talk
was.
about that.
It was. So go back,
Hmm.
watch that first live stream, and we got into that pretty darn
We didn't go
good.
too deep though.
I think
We didn't go
so.
too deep.
I thought we did
I
pretty
think
good digging into that.
I
No?
can't. I think I just kind of ranted about having variant covers on facsimiles, making them no longer facsimiles,
Yeah, and I talked about the
because
labyrinth thing,
I'm
and
unflinchingly rigid and anal
yeah,
in my ways.
well, no argument here. Not fighting you on that one.
I am what I
Um,
am.
but Jody, thank you for the comments there. And then I also want to mention,
Yes.
if you like what you see, hit subscribe on YouTube. I guess it's a whole AI thing. Um, Al Gore is out there right now waiting for you to subscribe since he invented the internet. You can
He's
follow us.
doing this with his fingers.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah.
Bada Bin Show on Instagram. We got a few posts up there already. I am not
We
much.
do.
Yeah, we do. I know. I'm not much of a social
I
media
don't know what
maven.
Instagram is. So.
Yeah, well, okay. They're Oldie
I,
Olson.
well,
Uh,
I had to jump off Instagram because hashtag X-Men spoilers.
mm, okay. Well, there you go.
Ugh.
Listen, man, I'm just throwing out there some ways to communicate with us
Oh, well, I'm
since we
down with
just
it.
had a couple comments in the chat. And of course, badabinShow@gmail.com. We will talk some emails a little later in the program.
Cool,
But
cool.
I want to give you a platform, dude, because a new episode dropped this morning. You seem to be on a little bit more of a regular schedule with NML Crossing. Do you want to talk about that and plug that for a second,
Oh
perhaps, possibly?
yeah. NML Crossing, the No Man's Land podcast that I've been doing since January 1st. It was supposed to be every weekday. It was for a while. And then I moved and kind of fell down a deep dark hole, so lost it a few days. But I think I'm kind of back in rotation now. I think 3 episodes in a row, 3 days in a row, which is really good for me right now. But we are at the halfway point of the entire run. Episode 67 came out, and I think the show is supposed to run either 133 or 134 episodes. So we're halfway there. We're getting to the good stuff. We're through the cataclysm. We're through the aftershock. We're through the ridiculous road to no man's land, and we are in no man's land proper.
Nice.
And yeah, I think it'll probably. I think at this rate we should be done in July or August. And then there's a follow up to it that don't want
Mm-mm-mm.
to announce just yet, but it's there's a follow up.
But
That's going to be a
will
lot
you
of fun.
announce it here? Will it be breaking news on the Bada Bin program?
Yes.
Good.
As soon as I figure out how to do like a scroll at the bottom of the screen with a breaking news,
Yes, a little ticker.
we'll do it. Yeah,
Okay,
we'll do
that'd be fantastic because then all the news outlets can report on it.
that. Hmm.
From the
And
ticker. and then boom.
And I will end my announcement with I'm Chris and I approve this message.
There you go. Well, very
A
good.
little hint.
You know I love your show, and that's how we first became friends was
It's
through
true.
podcasting and what have you. So strong bonds, people.
Mm-hmm.
Strong
Mm-hmm.
freaking bonds can happen. Now, let's also move on to some comic books that I read this week. Is that cool? Do you want to let me
I can dig
discuss
it.
some stuff that I read, and then maybe you can
Absolutely. Hopefully,
weigh
hopefully
in?
I read some of them too.
All
Probably
right.
not this week, but hopefully I read them at some point in my life.
Okay. Well, you can again give me your 2 cents. Hop on your soapbox here. First up, I'm going to bring up some newer material, and this one is something I was very iffy on from the get go,
Hmm.
despite enjoying the solo title quite a bit. And this is the Superman House of Brainiac special, numero
Okay.
uno. And
Hmm.
surprisingly, I'm not yet even after reading what's been going on in the pages of Superman and Action Comics,
Hmm.
House of Brainiac, that's the most I can muster about it is that weird,
But
sound.
I can't
Um,
remember if we talked about this in text or not. But it's a Brainiac story. Is it the
mhm.
same as every damn Brainiac story?
In many senses, yes, but Josh Williamson
Mm.
is trying to throw a little wrinkle in there, which actually isn't
Okay.
half bad.
Okay.
Especially if you like previous iterations of Brainiac, you might be pleased. I'm not
Eh.
trying to spoil here, okay? And of course, if you've read any of the solicits coming up with absolute power for this summer, you've already
I
been
have not.
okay. Well, if you're one of the people out there who did, you've already been spoiled as
Mhm.
far as
Okay.
future versions of Brainiac. But I actually really enjoyed
Oh.
this one because it had a Mark Russell yarn in it, and I tend to
Mhm.
be a very big Mark Russell fan. He likes to
Mhm.
pull on the heartstrings, and he definitely did so in this. So yeah, it wasn't half bad. This one, let's get into some free comic book day stuff that I picked up. I remember last
Mhm.
week I was going to talk about some of my scores. I did
Sure.
not. We ran out of time because you pushed me off air. You said, enough of you,
I did.
Dave. I'm done talking to you. And I am, full disclosure, I don't buy a lot of Marvel books anymore. I
Mhm.
really don't. The majority of what I sub to is DC or some of the
Okay.
indies. Marvel, yet again, for being that 12-year-old who is full on Marvel, to
Oh
how
yeah.
little Marvel I buy now is just shocking. But I
Hmm.
did grab their Blood Hunt #1. Hello. Did you just make a noise with your mouth?
No, 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 never,
And this
never.
has a little preview of the X-Men, new X-Men run in there too. Okay, uh oh, that doesn't sound good. I'll tell you what, I did not enjoy this at all. Now you got really expressive over the X-Men stuff, which we can get to in a second. But
Nah, nah, we don't need to. I just
well,
didn't like it. I
all right,
didn't like it.
all right.
So
But I mean,
yeah.
we're going from one event to another, right? I just talked about House of Brainiac.
Hmm.
Now I'm talking about Marvel with Blood Hunt.
And do we need more vampires?
No, we do not. Not at all. And DC is
Was
actually
it
going to be doing
was
that
it
too.
yeah, was it Stanley on The Office who said how many vampires am I supposed to care about?
Well,
I don't.
okay. Well, get ready, brace yourself, because you being a completist, I'm sure you're gonna get plenty of Blood Hunt
Nope.
tie-ins with.
Oh,
Whoa.
just the X-Men. Yeah, just the
Oh,
X-Men.
really? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're lucky then. Or maybe not, just because you were not happy with the Uncanny X-Men preview in the back of this issue. But I didn't like
No
it.
bueno.
I was like, no, you're not pulling me back in with this. It's not happening. First
Mm-mm.
off, when you start sniffing an event, you go, geez, cheap gimmick.
Oh yeah.
And also too soon because it's not a month that goes by where we don't have some kind of company wide crossover anymore.
Sure.
I just
Sure.
mentioned DC's doing Absolute Power right after House of
Hmm.
Brainiac, so
Yeah.
give us a break, guys. Let us breathe.
Please.
Let creators write their books and do what they want to do without having to tie into something else. But this really,
Yeah.
I'd mentioned in the past how I really did not like Night Terrors from DC. I thought the timing was really poor.
Oh, it was
Um,
awful, wasn't it? I
it was
mean, they
bad.
just kick off. They had this major push for Dawn of DC,
Mm-hmm.
and they were getting some good press on a lot of their books.
Right.
And then 2 months into it, they press pause. They kill all the momentum
Right. Well, I think
for
it was even
a
worse with
half-baked
that.
horror story.
Right? Yeah. Night Terrors, of course, which was a terrible name. With Dark Knight with
Hmm.
the K Night, which has been
Yeah.
used before even, but let's not harp on
I'm
that.
sure. Yeah.
The thing was too was normally an event you'd get the tie-ins in the regular series. Here they
Hmm.
halted the regular
Yeah.
series, relaunched new number ones as Night Terrors Superman, Night Terrors what
Hmm.
have you, and as you just stated, that momentum was so strong. I
Yep.
mean, I was
And
so happy and optimistic about what DC was doing. It was like
sure.
getting punched in the
Same here.
stomach, you know?
Yeah. And it wasn't even like Night Terror's Superman was it. They had Night Terror's Action Comics,
Right.
Night Terror's Detective Comics. So it's like you were getting two series at least
Mm-hmm.
for all these different heroes. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I know.
Why? We know why. Yeah.
It's cheap heat. I'm stealing that
Very
from
cheap.
you. That's something that you like to say often. It's cheap heat.
Cheap heat.
Gets people writing, whatever bloggers out there get to go, oh yeah, check it out, they're doing Night Terrors, woo woo woo, look at this new, I can't even
Hmm.
remember the villain's name now, Insomnia I think it was, which is
Yeah, I don't remember.
very lackluster in itself.
Hmm.
But let's move on because this is gonna, we keep going with that, that's another episode right there. I like sword and sorcery in my comics, so I did pick up
Hmm.
the Conan.
Hmm.
um, This one is the Battle of the Black Stone, which, to be honest with you, a lot of free comic book day stuff is much like the Walmart Giants that we were talking about, where you really only get maybe even 5 to 10 pages of something that you might be,
Sure.
or, matter or be worthwhile or what have
It's
you.
it's basically a CBR preview in print.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put
That's
it.
it.
Exactly right.
Hmm.
This read like a full fledged book, and it's leading
Very
into
nice.
sorry to say it, kind of an event. The and this dude, this might actually set you off. So brace yourself, hold on to something. But it's going to be the Howard verse because Conan was created by Robert Howard, and
Howard, yeah.
they're going to incorporate all of his characters in one
Okay.
big story. So you're going to have
Hmm.
Solomon Kane and some lesser known characters mixing it up with
Hmm.
Conan. And to me, I think it kind of sounds interesting. And this was a very good debut to get people,
Hmm.
kind of their blood boiling
Yeah.
on picking up
I mean,
Conan.
sure. I mean, that's not a bad idea, but can we have a moratorium on verse, please?
How's that? What do
The
you?
word like ending words with verse.
Oh yes, 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 yes,
Like
yes, yes.
everything has to
Okay.
be a verse now because everything's a multiverse. Everything. It's like how many of these? Like the new X-Men collections are X verse. It's like why?
Mm-hmm.
We don't need that. Just
Yeah.
put out the damn trade. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be ticketed as a verse. Everything's a damn verse now. It's so tired.
Yeah, I understand. I get where you're coming from. This is just more like niche. You know what I mean? The Robert
I
E.
mean, that's
Howard
cool. I'm
verse.
I'm I'm fine with that. But can we not call it that? Just
Well,
uh,
give us a solution, Chris. What do you want to
we're so
call it?
basic. Don't call it anything. Just put the people together. It doesn't need to be branded.
Yeah. Don't call it anything. Just let it be,
It's like,
as the
oh,
Beatles once
Conan
said.
and this guy run into each other. Fine, I can accept that.
Well, quickly, this whole Conan thing is from different eras, different ages, what have you. So it's not
I
like
would
they're all from the
assume.
Hyborian age.
Yeah, I would
So,
assume.
but yeah. And I'm really enjoying the Conan book right now from Titan, written by
Hmm.
Jim Zub. So,
Hmm.
good stuff, good stuff. All right, what do I else like in my pile? Yeah, I mentioned I don't collect a lot of Marvel. I took a lark on this book, Get Fury, which is
Hmm.
a Garth Ennis joint, and Jason Burrows, I believe. Yes, he was the artist. Where it's a Vietnam story starring Frank Castle and Nick Fury. And to be honest with you, it wasn't bad, but there is nothing new to see here,
Yeah.
which tends to be Garth Ennis's MO now. Um, no, I'm serious. Like I consider
It's been a
Preacher.
minute for me, but yeah.
Yeah, Preacher is like up there for me as one of the greatest comic runs ever. I
Hmm.
would probably go Alan Moore Swamp Thing 1 and then 2 Preacher by Garth Ennis and Steve Dillon. But he has
And
been riding.
three, an Arby's roast beef sandwich.
Shut your mouth. Don't talk about that garbage fast food to me. Not today. I'm in no mood for your
On today of all
shenanigans,
days.
Buster Brown. Yes. Actually, dude, I gorged myself on like, well, I shouldn't say fast food. I ate out for both my meals yesterday, which is a
Hmm.
rarity for me. So now I don't feel good about myself. I'm very self
You went to
conscious.
Arby's twice.
Shut your face. Shut it. Get fury. So anyway, it was
Get the horsey sauce.
no. My mother loved Arby's too. She loved it. The curly fries, all that stuff. For me, it's just
Curly fries are all right. I haven't had it in ages, but
chuck it in the
yeah.
garbage can. Goodbye, good riddance. See you later, Arby's. Take your 10-gallon, or no, it's not even a 10-gallon hat. It's, you know what hat that is? A Twinkie guy's hat on their
It
sign.
is. It's Twinkie the kid's hat.
There you
Yeah.
go. Take that and ride off
Yeah.
into the sunset. Let the tumbleweeds follow your ass on the way out. See you later, Arby's. But anyway, get fury. I actually, you know what's weird about this too, was
Mhm.
because I have to do all my subs via pre-orders.
Sure, of course.
I actually canceled this before issue 1 was even released because I had a feeling that there was nothing new to be seen here, and I'm like, do I really
Oh,
want
that's
to?
current. That's
Oh
new.
yes, yes, yes. Everything I'm talking
Oh,
about right
okay.
now is brand, or within
Okay.
the span of a month.
Oh,
You
because
know.
I mean, looking at that cover, it could be like a 2003 Max book.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And as a
Yeah,
matter
I
of
mean, they.
fact, look at the bottom.
Oh, it's Max. Gee, they still
Hello,
have Max.
hello. Yeah,
Good
apparently
grief!
there you
I
go.
didn't even
Look at
realize that
that.
was still a thing.
Ding, ding, ding. Get this man a cookie. He's going to the beach.
Oy.
So yeah.
I don't even want this cookie.
This segment is going way too long. I get to speed
No, no,
through
no.
this.
It's good.
You know, you
It's
with your
good.
Arby's talk and everything else, you're slowing me down, buddy. You're dragging me
I am
down.
a road. I am a road speed bump. That's
You
what I am.
are. You are. Ba-boom. We got the Nightwing annual, which annuals. What's the point? What are
Don't
we? What
matter
are we even
anymore. Yeah,
doing anymore? Annuals are
we're just
just.
charging a couple more bucks for it. Yeah.
And listen, annuals have never been something of significance. Truly, I do think when we were kids, they probably had a little bit more meaning because they were connected to maybe that event in the summer or Atlantis attacks for
Mm-hmm.
something,
Oh
whatever
yeah.
the case may be
Yeah.
there. But this one is the origin of B. Bennett, the Pirate Queen, from the pages of Nightwing.
Hmm.
Extremely
I've got
boring.
that. Haven't read it.
You will, if you need a good nap, instead of a bedtime
Is that
story.
did Taylor write that too?
No, this was done
Oh,
by
was it by
Travis
an
Moore.
artist, right?
Yes, Travis
Yes.
Moore.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was okay to look at. The art wasn't terrible or anything, but it was just terribly boring. Just
I
so
mean, it's
yeah.
a lot of pages for not a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, we are going to go into the bins here, since that is what we are. We are the Bada Bin
That's what
program.
we do.
I consider The Adventures of Superman the best Superman title to be released in the heyday of the multiple Superman titles, the Triangle era.
Mhm.
And this is an issue I already owned, and this kind of harkens back. This is a callback to what we originally talked about, newsprint, direct edition. I did not
Mhm.
have Adventures of Superman 480 direct, so I decided to
Hey.
pick it up. And then I also decided to reread it. And good God, is this
Mhm.
a fantastic issue where Superman battles the Eradicator on, as the cover kind of indicates, on the sun. But it's also
There
a
you
jam
go.
issue, so you get a lot of great artists here throughout the history, from the history of Superman,
Mhm.
contributing
Mhm.
to this issue.
Very cool.
Oh, dude, excellent, excellent book. So, um,
Yeah.
real quick, and this maybe could be a segment on future episodes, but
Mhm.
let me speculate, if you
Sure.
will.
Hit me.
Value on books.
Mhm.
We don't base them on the content of the books themselves. We always say
No.
first appearance of a character,
Mhm.
yeah, new number one, what have you.
New
That's where
number
the money
one.
is. But and this is where the segment would come from. Issues that should be worth $1 billion. I lost my ability to speak because I got so excited. It should be worth
Mhm.
much more than it is. This cost me 75 cents for such an
Mhm.
awesome read. Shame on you, world at large. You know what I mean?
It's it's crazy.
It is
It's
crazy, isn't
crazy.
it? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
Swamp Thing number 56 is my favorite issue of Swamp Thing of all time. My
Mhm.
favorite single issue of any comic all time. You can
It's
find
like a
it,
$3 book.
if that, half the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, it's the sentimental value. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Someone
You even
hold me
have that one
down.
slabbed.
Yeah, put a wallet in my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm having a seizure. I love this issue so much. How is this not more publicly given affection than just, it seems
Oh
like,
yeah.
humble little old me? I
Mhm.
just, I can't get over it. I
Yeah, and
can't.
I think that's a good idea for a segment too, because like one of my very favorite issues of the Teen Titans is Tales of the Teen Titans 55,
Mm-hmm.
which it's a wonderful issue. It's the first issue I ever covered on Chris's on Infinite Earths,
Right.
and it's not one that's terribly significant to most people. You know, it's not the first appearance of Nightwing. It's not the Judas contract. It's not the first Deathstroke. It's just an issue, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a really, really good one.
Yeah.
Same with Uncanny X-Men 308 is another one of my very favorite issues of all time, and it's kind of just there. It's not one that people really talk about, or it's certainly not one that demands
Right.
high dollar, or even maybe not even $1.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff.
Well, there you go. There's
But
something that the listeners can hit us with. Give us an
yeah, for
issue
sure.
of something that should be worth $1 billion.
Hmm.
Yet again, badabindshow at Gmail is the best way to reach us. So do that.
And
Yeah.
seeing that Adventures of Superman cover reminded me
Mm-hmm.
of a different kind of variant that I totally forgot about.
Talk to me.
Um, the mall variant. Have you ever heard of the mall variant?
Mall variant? No, please explain, Chris.
Yes. It's not that exact issue. It was an issue. Oh boy, I covered it on the blog. But it's
Mm-hmm.
an issue of Adventures of Superman. And in the corner box, it has a logo for Fiesta Mall,
Oh.
which is a mall. It was a mall out here in Arizona before it was bulldozed, like
Mm-hmm.
most of the malls out here. But I posted it, and I didn't even notice it. I didn't notice what it said in the corner. I just posted it,
Mm-hmm.
and some dude reached out to me, and he's like, "I'll give you $300 for that book."
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on.
And I'm like, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I thought it was a scam. Because I think everything's a scam.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
I don't. I'm afraid of PayPal. I don't do online stuff very much. So I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's a mall variant. And then he sent me pictures of the same issue, like 5 or 6 versions of it with different malls in the corner box. So these were dedicated to these particular malls.
Wacky.
And yeah, and the Fiesta Mall one was one of the very few he needed for his full run or for his collection of them. And I didn't trust the guy. So I'm like, no, I'm fine. I'm keeping it, whatever. But, and like a couple months later, he's like, I'll give you $500 for it. And I'm like, no, it's cool. I'm not playing. I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah.
But but yeah, I mean, I don't know if there are any other books that have similar variances to them. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
if anybody watching knows or has any stories about that, because as I did more research on it, I found an entire thread on like some like fogey comic board from the mid 2000s, late 90s or whatever, talking about these mall variants for this particular issue of Adventures of Superman.
Mm.
And people were sharing their covers, and it was weird. It was so weird. I don't even know if that's something that would be in the Overstreet.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the mall variant, but I do know that they were giving comic stores their own variants at one point in time.
That was semi-recent.
Yeah,
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 and
yeah,
they
yeah.
were like really lazy. Because I remember like Spider Island, there was
Mm-hmm.
variants, and like every store in my city had their variant. And it's basically Spider-Man holding a newspaper
Mm-hmm.
with the store's logo on it.
Yes, yes, yes. Right. Yep.
Something a little bit less earnest about that to me than these
True.
mall ones, because now it's like pay to play, do the thing, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Not so special.
And I do want to mention one other thing that we haven't before anybody bites my head off about it, because we are going to move on here about the whole. We're going to be done talking about direct edition versus newsstand.
Mm.
The DC Universe UPC
Mm-hmm.
box. That's something I don't ever seek out or try to collect. It's always either direct or newsstand. But
Mm-hmm.
I wonder where that fits into the whole scheme of things, because that was out there for a little while too. I think in particular Zero Hour had those, and there were some Superman
Mm-hmm.
issues as well. As far as the significance of them, I'm not really knowledgeable on it, but it's not something
Mm-hmm.
I ever try to hunt for.
Yeah, I just sent you. I don't know if you can put
Ooh,
it on screen or not. I don't understand that kind of stuff, but
let me see what I
yeah,
can
it was
do.
Adventures of Superman 443 from 1988.
Oh yes, yes, I remember that issue. Sure.
Yeah, it has in the corner there. It says Fiesta Mall.
Let me see what I can do with all of that. Give me a few minutes, because I am, not this technological wizard.
Me either.
Um, but yeah, so I'll take a couple seconds on that and see what I can in fact do. And if I can't, you know what? Whatever, Chris. Thanks for sending
Yeah,
it to me now while we're live on the
it's true.
air. You had
I
a whole
know. I
week.
was.
You could have made something
Inspiration
happen.
struck.
Yeah, it sure did.
Inspiration struck.
Now, we keep doing kind of callbacks to the previous, our first live stream.
Hmm.
Let's continue with that because something that we had talked about
Hmm.
was not spending money on big ticket books or key books,
Yes.
and how easy it can be for people who have disposable income or credit cards just to kind of hop on
Tax
eBay,
return.
yeah,
Yep.
spend whatever they want, whether it's fair value on it, and so they can post on Instagram. Look what I got! He.
5 likes.
But it was worth it. It was worth
It
every
was
every click
every
on
last one of them.
that smash. Whoever smashed that like button. Um,
I opened up 4 more accounts so I can like it 4 more times.
there you go. Right. Uh, but I mean, a lot of like my frugal sensibility
Hmm.
comes from me growing up poor and not
Hmm.
having a
Hmm.
lot when I was a kid. Just one quick story here. And luckily, we lived on the East Coast. We lived in Massachusetts, but our refrigerator broke, and to keep our food cold, it was wintertime, and we had a little awning. We lived on the second floor. We put all of our milk and our eggs and everything outside.
Outside. Hmm.
Just sat it outside like we were some kind of weird Amish people. Yeah, not that there's anything wrong with being Amish, but
We're
anyway,
making butter.
there you go. But we couldn't afford to get a new fridge. It was like a wild, crazy a new. We're doomed. What we're gonna have to
Sure.
wait till spring to even
Hmm.
think about entertaining such an idea. Um, but I had recently found a brand of sneakers that are
Hmm.
effing excellent, and I don't say this lightly because I am a person with severe back issues. I got a fake hip. I know I look young, I look robust, but inside, baby,
Vibrant.
I vibrant. Thank you. I am bionic, like nobody's business. So to find a comfortable piece of footwear is a big deal for me. A little
Hmm.
shock absorption for my fat frame.
New
Uh,
tires.
yes, yes, thank you. The new tires, and I spent a lot of money on them.
Hmm.
I spent over $100 in a pair of shoes, dude. And for most people, yeah, what's the big deal? That's the going
Sure.
rate. That's what you spend on shoes. Come on, Dave,
Oh
you
yeah.
cheapskate. But for me, it was like, oh, this is a big
It's
investment.
an
Oh,
investment.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. To the point where I had the shoes, I sprayed them with like protectant sprays, and everything else, and it's almost like a collector mentality. You want to keep them in mint condition. I need to go pick
Hmm.
up my son
Slab
from
them.
school. Yeah, right. And I was like, all right, well, let me put my shoes on. No, not those. Not those. Those cost over $100. God forbid they get soiled. But the shoe thing in particular brings me
Hmm.
back to when I was a kid because I don't know. You remember the whole Air Jordan craze of like the
Oh
late
yeah.
'80s and
Reebok pumps and
'90s?
Air Jordans. Yep.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
um, every kid in my school had these Jordans, and
Oh yeah. Starter jackets. Yep.
dude, I wanted a pair of Jordans so friggin' bad. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be somebody, Chris. I didn't want to be a nobody anymore. I want
Hmm.
people to like me. I want chicks to dig me. And so I
Yeah.
begged my mom, begged her. Now, mind you, I let off with the whole thing. We couldn't afford a fridge. We barely had a pot to piss
Sure.
in. She was a single
Hmm.
mom. She worked her ass off for two miserable, ungrateful children. And I have this, and my son has inherited this from me. So this is wonderful. If you want something, you never shut up about it. You just talk about it incessantly. You think keep by putting it out into the universe that much,
That's the
and
secret, right?
yes,
Yeah.
annoying others around you will make it a reality. And so I bug my mom, and so finally she's like, "Okay." So we go, and this is before you could go to a Walmart or a big box store. We had the local shoe store. Um,
Yeah. Faber.
that being said, the selection is somewhat limited.
Sure.
In Webster, Massachusetts, circa 1992 or whatever the case was. And my mom's like, "Well, I'll buy you the Jordans, but you got to kind of be reasonable with them." And most of them were like $150, whatever. And then
Oh
there was
yeah.
like a pair for like 80. And I'm like, those are the ones. They called to me. I floated across the store, um, and I held them in my hands. And I mean, even $80 then, like my mom, like that's you're going
That's
without
a lot of money.
you're
That's a
going
lot of
without
money now.
yeah, you're going without groceries for a couple weeks to buy me these
Hmm.
shoes. But anyway, I had them. Boom, I bring them home. Oh, I can't wait to wear them to school the next day. I am excited beyond belief. So there we are in school, or there I am rather. I go to school,
Mm.
bum bum bum, walking in. Look at me, suckers! Hey, one of the more popular kids looks at me, looks down at my feet, and goes, "Those are the ugliest pair of Jordans I've ever seen in my life." My insides evaporated into
Oh yeah.
dust, absolute
I think
dust.
the only thing worse would have been him saying those are the cheap ones.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And but then throughout the course of the day, I'm wearing the shoes, and kids are making comments. Man, those things are so ugly. And geez, look at
Hmm.
those piece of crap Jordans. Like, where the hell do you find those? And oh my god, dude, like
Yeah.
I was just ruined. And the worst part is, I made my mom buy them. She couldn't
Oh
rub
yeah.
two nickels together, and I was too ashamed to wear them to school again. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because I didn't want to be picked on anymore. But this,
Sure. Sure. I mean, back when we were in school, they were allowed to bully you.
yes,
That was allowed.
teachers too.
Sometimes encouraged.
Yeah,
Teachers
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
Teachers especially sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess some stories about that too. But anyway, I guess my whole point of this is as I got older, that was a really important lesson for me. How like a brand does not make something cool or give
Sure.
it a certain significance
Oh
beyond
yeah.
what you like and what you appreciate, what you find comfortable, what you enjoy is far more valuable. It's worth
Hmm.
$1 billion, like Swamp Thing number 56. But you
Sure.
know, than what society tells you is cool.
Of
Um,
course. Of course.
so big ticket items like shoes and stuff, man. For me, this leads into today. Big
Hmm.
deal. And I also tell my son that story anytime he's like, "Dad, I want Nikes, or I need this, I need this kind of thing." I'm like, "Oh, hold the phone, hold up."
Sit under the learning tree,
There
son.
you go. Let me tell you about the Air Jordan story, the horror story. Get around the
Yeah.
campfire and prepare to be emotionally ruined. You know,
Hmm.
and I know you
Oh
you
yeah.
were in some hard times too. You know, so it makes us
Hmm.
appreciate money and the value of things so much
Oh
more.
yeah. And you fear that it's even when you have it, even
Mm.
a little bit of it, you worry that it's gonna go
Oh
away
boy, yeah.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, we were famine to feast and back to famine again,
Yeah.
constantly. Every year was like, okay, do we have money this year or not?
Mm-hmm.
You know. Then growing up, we were victims to the economy. We were victims to, I guess, I guess it's what we colloquially call predatory lending with housing. Um, we lost everything, and so even that, we're out the other side now. My first stop in most comic stores is the 50 cent bin because that's where my mind is. Because as quickly as things come, they can go even quicker. So there's always that fear. And the comic store is the perfect place because comics are unnecessary, completely unnecessary. I mean, even just for reading, I mean, I talked about hashtag X-Men spoilers. There's hashtag X-Men scans. Wednesday, 12:01 a.m. You can read everything that came out that day for free.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if you don't mind some ads, you can read them for free. Not that I'm a physical guy, so I don't really the digital doesn't work for me so much.
And you're not
So
a
I
pirate.
can't take advantage. And I'm not a pirate.
Yep.
I'm not a pirate. I'm an Irish Catholic boy. I have guilt from
Right.
from my soul to my from my toes to my nose. I've got guilt.
Yeah. Sure.
Um, but there's always that fear that you're spending too much money.
Mm-hmm.
Even just going from the 50 cent bins to the actual bins, where it's like you might find the book for $2 or $3 or $5,
Yeah.
God forbid, double digits.
Mm-hmm.
You get that feeling in your gut where it's like, oh, should I be doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. How am I? Not only how am I going to explain this to anybody, if anybody who has stakes in what I spend, how do I explain it to myself?
Yeah. Right.
How do
Right.
I justify this? And I think judicious spending is smart in any situation. So these lessons and these life lessons that we lived through probably have saved our bacon more often than not
This
because
is
it's
true.
so like you said, your tax return comes in, you get a brand new credit card, your credit card's limit goes up a couple $1,000. Ooh, okay, I can get that new statue, or I can finally buy that damn Detective Comics 880 for $200 on
Yeah,
Blu-ray,
right.
you know, which
Mm-hmm.
I saw yesterday, and it was like, no, can't do it.
I.
But but we have that internal monologue
Mm-hmm.
that reminds us of stories of the broken fridge,
Right.
or of reusing the same coffee grounds every single day because you can't afford to buy a can of coffee.
That's a big one. That's something that you had told
That
me. This is a real story, folks.
yeah.
That this man
Mm-hmm.
survived, and it's always in here. I swear to God, and I will cite it to him. You've
Yeah.
come a long way from reusing those coffee filters, baby.
Oh yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
mean,
like it would be 2 weeks on the same coffee filter running water through those same
oy,
disgusting grounds
but you need your
because I
coffee.
couldn't afford coffee. You
Yeah.
need coffee. You need coffee. But yeah, it has stopped me from spending
Mm-hmm.
to the point where even like my wife will be like, "Well, why didn't you just get it?"
Yeah.
It's like, well, I couldn't. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And it's what's like led me to actually explore shopping online because you can get a better deal there. And it's like, okay, well, I'm only paying $1.50 per page on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's silliness. But do you have any like recent examples, recent trips to the comic shop where your internal monologue, the angel on your shoulder, reminded you of days gone by?
Recent, always. Are you kidding me? Like it's one of those weird things where, okay, let's go into my mind for a second. Um,
Sure.
Sorry, I just stuttered there. Don't know why. Maybe because I'm nervous about entering this danger zone. But
We're digging into the
hey,
past.
man,
That's
listen.
always
There you go. But this is the recent stuff. But I see a book in the bins and I go, man,
mhm,
$2. I don't know, dude. To me, it's $1.50. $1.50
mhm.
max. We're talking 50 cents. 50 cents. What can you
Oh yeah,
buy with 50 cents nowadays? Nothing. Not a
nothing.
damn thing. But for me,
You
that
could buy a $50 with it.
right, not even probably.
Got it.
But that would stop me. That would prevent me from buying
Oh
something I
yeah.
want because in my mind, I have set what I am willing to pay and the value is something. And we're not
Mhm.
talking the Batman, I think it was the 880 you just said, where it's
A
$200.
Detective 880. Yeah.
Thank you, Detective 880. We're not talking about difference of sums we're talking change, pocket change
Pennies. Yeah.
that will
Yeah.
stop me from buying something. You know what I mean? And
Oh sure.
that's all the time when I dig through bins. Every time I dig through the bin, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that stems from my youth,
Of course.
where being so poor, it was like, well, I don't know. Despite how
Mm-hmm.
badly you want something, you got to get it for the right price, your price,
Oh yeah.
what you value it at. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's always, always, always going through my head. Now there are some rare experiences where I've been like, all right, I'll pay the extra buck.
Throw caution to the wind. Yep.
Yep, but those are so few and far between. So I am
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
as cheap gets. My brother used to make fun of me, and he's like, "Man, you would do anything to save a dime. You would not pay 10 cents over what you're willing to pay for something." I'm like, "Yeah, man, that's you got to stick
Mm-hmm.
to your guns on stuff like this." And then especially when it comes to collecting, you know what I mean? For me personally,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's always, always, always churning up in here on that
Oh yeah.
coconut stuck to this neck.
You
I,
squeeze a penny so hard, Abe Lincoln chokes,
There
right?
you go, man. And I'm trying to think of a
Yeah.
specific situation where it's in the reverse. Like I just mentioned
Mm-hmm.
that I did go for it. I'm
Sure.
struggling. I am really
Yeah.
struggling because yet again, it's just so hard to find examples of that because I tend to get things right where I want them, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Now buying online though, that's tricky for me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that would probably be the landscape or environment where I have probably spent, and we're talking yet again, 75 cents or what have you more than I would want to put forth. And a lot of that would be with like Jonah Hex stuff. Um,
Okay.
because the volume one of Jonah Hex is, I love reading them. I love
Mm-hmm.
that run, but they're harder for me to find in the wild in my hunts,
Okay.
and that's what
Okay.
always happens, right? Desperation makes you turn
Of
to
course.
the
Of
world
course.
wide web.
Mm-hmm.
And there are situations where I don't pull the trigger and I hold off, hoping that
Mm-hmm.
maybe a new haunt, maybe a new little dark corner of the world that I haven't explored
Oh
yet
yeah.
is going to have it. but there have been instances where I've like gone, yeah, I'll do it, and I bought a Jonah Hex issue, what have you, online for slightly more than I was willing
Sure.
to pay. You know,
Oh yeah.
but that's just
Yeah,
me.
my online shopping hasn't been for the cheap stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's been for the higher ticket things, and I never I was in a comic shop probably 3 months ago,
Yep.
and a guy came in with a couple of Spider-Man pops, the Funko Pops, and he was trying to buy Amazing Spider-Man 300, and it was on the wall for a couple $100. And the guy's like, if I give you these two pops, can I get that issue for $50 or something like that? And the guy
Mm-hmm.
looked at him like, get out of here, basically. But the kid would not stop. Like he's like, okay, well, what about 60? What about 65? And it was like 67. It was like going up like so incrementally small. And I'm just watching this whole thing play out. And I think eventually it got to the point where the kid got up to like $160 plus these pops, and the guy's like, sure, whatever. And the kid bought it, paid, left. I go up to the register to buy my little stack of whatever I was buying, and I'm like, I've never seen anything like that before. And he's like, oh, that happens all the time. I'm like, really? People come in and try to negotiate the wall books? I would never consider doing that. And that takes me to my eBay story here. I found one of the first, I think the first book I ever bought online was the first appearance of Deathstroke, New Teen Titans #2, and that is obviously a wall book. And I've seen it for anywhere from $150 to just under $1,000. Ridiculously large span. And we're not even talking about CGC graded or anything. I hate, these are the raw books. I like to call them the actual readable real books, but the collector lexicon has changed, unfortunately, not in my favor.
Yeah, boy, is it ever.
So like I would never go up and be like, oh, that book you got on the wall for $900, I'll give you 100. I would never do that. I would never try to negotiate it. But I might go up to them and say, hey, do you have one in worse condition than that? Do you have any in the back? Do you have any in your collection you're willing to part with? Whatever. Do you know anybody who's selling one? Do you have like some top secret eBay thing that you can buy it really cheap or
Mm-hmm.
relatively
Right.
speaking? And and I was at one shop that I go to, and they had a copy of it on the wall for, I think it was $300. And I'm like, hey, do you have one in like less? It doesn't have to be perfect condition. I just want the cover on it, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I want, yeah, I want the cover to be attached.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I could probably come down to 200. I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't mean that. I'm not trying to, screw you
Haggle.
or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not trying to haggle. And I'm like, nah, that's still a little bit too steep for me, but thanks anyway. And it led me to eBay where I found it for like $75.
Okay.
So at that point, I feel like I did my due diligence because my rules of collecting aren't as rigid as they once were, but they're still very rigid.
Mm-hmm.
Like where every one of my hunts needs to be in the wild.
Right. Yeah.
I've qualified that now because it's like, okay, well, I actually talked to the guy about it, and we weren't able to come to any kind of deal. So I did my due diligence. I don't have to feel guilty about shopping online
Right.
because I don't just talk the talk about supporting local comic shops. I like to do that thing.
Yep.
So that is what pushed me into going online because it was like, okay, well, that's a savings of what is it, $225, something
Right.
like that. It's like that's that could get me 880 if I if I decide to do it.
Yeah. Right.
But but ever since then, my excursions online have been similar to that, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like if I see it, I'll ask if they have a lesser copy, or I'll buy it if I see it if it's a price that I can agree to. But if I'm not able to find a copy within that rate, I'll go online.
Yeah.
I did that recently for your favorite comic of all time, the Harley Quinn one shot.
Oh God. Oh
You
yeah.
love it. You love it. You love that
Oh
one. I know
yeah.
you
I
have
love
the
it.
other, yeah, the other side of the wall that we can't see is just plastered Harley Quinn
Mm.
memorabilia. It's awesome. But
Really? Really, Chris? Don't let people believe that. He's being
Well, I've seen the other side of the
facetious.
room. They haven't, so
Yeah.
I can say these things.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Gag
mean
me
that
with a
Harley Quinn
spoon,
one shot,
please.
multiple.
Yes, please. As you
That
were.
Harley Quinn one shot is that's hundreds of dollars for the first print of that,
Mm-hmm.
and I found that one 60. You know, I actually haven't even seen that one in public, but it's just the things that we do, the way that we talk to ourselves, that internal monologue, it's so strong, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a curse, but at the same time, it's definitely a bit of a blessing as well.
Sure. You know, I don't haggle either. I'm really never in the market for wall books anyway. If I had to like give the police a description of the inside of a store, the walls would probably be, I don't know, officer.
There's stuff
There
there.
was stuff
Yeah.
up there. Yeah, I don't know. But one thing that you brought up was the kid with the pops, right? Which is kind of
Yeah.
funny to me because at the end the pops didn't even matter. You know what I
No.
mean? Those are just what it is.
No, and he still lost them.
I know,
Yeah.
right? So what was the whole point of that? But I do love
Hmm.
stores that will accept in-store trade. Now,
Okay.
you know as well as anybody, if you went to like a big chain, like a half price books or something, you're not getting
Hmm.
nothing for your stuff.
No.
I know I'm not a gamer, but there's always the talk of,
GameStop. Yep.
yes, exactly.
Pennies for a game. Yeah.
What's the point? You're better off just chucking it in the trash can than trading
Hmm.
with them.
Yep.
But then, name drop, Awesome Comics. They, here in Dallas, Texas, who I brought up last time as being one of my favorite places,
Hmm.
he's done some trades with me, in store trade. That's
Hmm.
Entertainment in Worcester, Mass. They used to do in store trade, and of course they give you more value for your stuff because you're taking stock off their hands. They're
Of
back
course.
stock
Of
away,
course.
and I love it when
Yeah.
shops will do that. And it doesn't always work out. Sometimes you'll show up, hey, I got this, not interested, buddy. Okay, no harm, no
Yeah.
foul.
You recently did that with Young Avengers, right?
Oh God, don't. Why are you gonna do that to me, man? You know,
But I
between
mean, it goes
Arby's,
into the story.
dude, Arby's, Harley Quinn, and now this. But yes, I did
It's a
do something
trifecta.
like that. Yeah, yeah, it is a trifecta of damage and
I,
doom to me. Um, if we weren't miles away in different states right now, you effectively could just punch me in the damn schnoz. So we're gonna save that for another day. How does that
okay.
sound?
Okay. I'm
We
down with
keep
that.
saying we're going to talk about this later, another time, huh? That'll definitely be for. But yes, that was an in-store trade situation. But still, I do enjoy stores that will do that
Mhm.
because you know, for me, it's a win-win because you're not selling something, you're not flipping anything, you're not. For me, it's still the love
Sure.
of the game. You know
You're
what
not
I mean?
exploiting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. This is something that
Yeah.
I love the hobby. I love the act of collecting. This may be something I'm not very passionate about, but maybe someone else out there is. I'm not going to put it online.
Sure.
I'm not going to. It goes back to the circle of life, to the comic shop, right?
You mean you're not going to post the thing that just came out today as extremely rare on eBay?
Hey, anybody interested in a copy of Blood Hunt Free Comic Book Day? $50.
Extremely rare.
There you
Extremely
go.
rare.
Yeah, it's the first appearance of Jubilee as a man. Um,
Rare and hard to find.
Yeah, Chris pointed that out to me, by the way, so all credit to him. I'm not stealing his thunder. But anyway, there you go. Bada bin on eBay. You will find nothing. Absolutely nothing. Um, but yeah, anyway, I lost my train of thought there too. But I
Mm,
love that because then you come out with stuff that you care about, books that you wanted.
sure.
Everybody wins because
Hmm.
yeah, man. I mean, we all know flippers are dirty.
Oh yeah.
They're just filthy folk, like gypsies, right? Peter David.
They're the people your parents warned you about.
Sorry. That's a little inside. We're good for inside jokes from time to time, so feel free to Google that on your own accord.
Hmm.
But yes. All right.
Just keep paying your taxes.
There you go. PAD.
Ah,
Uh we keep hyping this whole thing about communication emails. Bill Beer was just in
mm,
our chat, so thank you, Bill,
hey.
saying it was a good episode. He might have used a better adjective, but I'm not on that screen right now.
Mm.
I also gave up on trying to show that cover, so
Oh, okay.
sucks to be you.
No
Well, you
biggie.
know what we can do? We can post that on our Instagram
There you
that you
go.
cannot master or have any knowledge about.
Mm-mm.
We're luring you
Mm.
guys to Instagram to see that. You have to go
Yes.
there.
Hashtag Fiesta Mall.
Yeah, right. That works too. But we did, in fact, get a couple emails after last episode. So I'm going to
Cool.
try to queue those up right now on my phone and give credit where
Mm-hmm.
credit
Mm-hmm.
is due. Here we are.
Excellent.
Um, the first email we received was from Chris Yu, who I know is a regular contributor to
Hey.
the NML Crossing show.
Oh,
Um,
he's a good friend. Yeah.
he said, "Dear Bad a Bin Show." So that was definitely an error.
That's our Christian name.
Bad a bin. A
Mm-hmm.
bin, you've been very, very bad. Very, very bad a bin. He just
Hey,
said, I've just finished listening to your first episode and writing to you in the hope of being one of the 10 letters picked to appear in your letters column. Congratulations, Chris Yu.
Wolfman Pile.
There you go, the Wolfman Pile. You made it. Of all the YouTube comic podcast episodes I've watched this week, yours was by far my favorite first episode. Is that a compliment or a jab?
It is. It is. It's a compliment.
Okay, thank God. I don't
We
know.
take every victory we can take.
Okay,
So
because
yes.
I was going to say, I don't know how many other YouTube comic shows had their first episode last week. So were we
I
in
think it was 25,000.
okay, I didn't know if we're in a category
Yeah.
of one or,
No, no, no.
okay.
It's a huge ecosphere.
Okay.
Ecosphere. Yeah.
All right. He actually wrote a fairly lengthy email here, but he gave
I
our
love it.
show a solid 7 out of 10, which I say, Chris, you shame on you.
Hey.
No, no, no. We deserve a 11 out of 10.
Oh yeah, because that's that. Wait. 7 out of 10 is a death threat, right?
Yes, exactly. So he is
We need
threatening our
bodyguards.
lives with a 7.
Oh, we need bodyguards to go with us to the podcast convention.
He just
Oh
said
no.
bad things about my mama with that 7 out of 10, Chris, you. Um, he does say, as a recovering comics addict, 15 years this November, I don't miss buying the comics, but I do miss the conversations about comics. So thank you for this. You're welcome, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, you are
Mm-hmm.
welcome. He wishes us luck. He did mention stuff about the quality of the show, which I do want to address. Hopefully, it's better this time out. I
Oh,
did put some,
technical. Yeah.
yeah, technical stuff. Not the quality of the conversation, but of the sound and visuals and what have you. It's something that we're working on. I'm learning all this stuff kind of on the fly, but I did dedicate some time this week into hopefully improving the way that we sound. But that's up to you guys. That's not my say. All right. So
Mm-hmm.
let us know about that too. If you think everything
Yes, for
sounds good,
sure.
what have
Yeah.
you, reach on out, baby. And the other email we received was from Eric K. And this one
Mm-hmm.
actually has a topic for us to discuss. So I'm going to read the
I
whole thing.
like it.
I'm going to read the whole email
I
here. So I
like it,
don't.
but I'm terrified at the same time.
You should be.
We're about to be exposed as not knowing much,
Oh, well, surprise.
knowing less than even we thought.
Yeah, well, let's find out. So, Dave and Chris, I figured this might be a good question for your show. Over time, there have been many opinions on DC continuity. Some people feel, oh, hello, some people feel that there is only 3 eras: pre crisis, post crisis, pre Flashpoint, and post Flashpoint. Some people
Got it.
feel it's all in one um, continuum. I don't even know how he wrote that. Maybe it's
Continuum.
continuum
Continuum.
with 2 U's. Is that how you
Mm-hmm.
say it? Continuum? Thank you for educating me,
Mm-hmm.
both of you. Um, now I just lost my my spot in the email here. Let me find that crazy word I couldn't read. Others, because of convergence, feel every time there are continuity origin changes, such as Crisis on Infinite Earths, Zero Hour, Infinite Crisis, Death Metal, etc., it is a different era. If we go with the idea of Earths, then we only have 3 eras: pre crisis, post crisis, and post Flashpoint. However,
Mm-hmm.
because of Rebirth and other events, people say we now have our post crisis, pre Flashpoint characters and Earth back. I am charging a nickel for every word of this email I'm reading right now. Okay? You can send a check to badabinshow@gmail.com. Do you have anything to add real quick, or you want to jump in, or you want me to keep going?
This is something that, uh, like, I don't even know if I have a thought out response just yet,
Mm-hmm.
just based on what I've heard so far. Because, I mean, there's just so much to it.
You'd be flabbergasted.
Um, I am bamboozled
Mm-hmm.
because there are elements of it's one of those situations where all things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
where we've talked about continuity, we've talked about headcanon being the only true canon, we've talked about all that kind of stuff, and I still like the headcanon to be based in something.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want it to have a foundation, um, and like the shift from New 52 to DCU YOU to Rebirth to post death metal to post metal to post death metal to post Final Crisis on Infinite Earths. We've got we're crisis fatigued at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we can throw in multiversity on top of all that. I was doing. It's funny that this email comes now because I was bothering you by a text a few weeks ago with my. I was deep diving into the Infinite Earths,
Never a bother,
which
mind you, but continue.
but but it was just like I was like relentless. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my god, this is a new Earth because Lois stubbed her toe, and this is a new Earth because Lori Lamaris was had wings instead of being a mermaid.
Mm-hmm.
It was so silly. Or your favorite character, Harley Quinn, was married to the Joker, or
Mm-hmm.
didn't know the Joker, or met the Joker as a child, or met the Joker as an old person. These are all different Earths in the multiverse and in the Infinite Earths. It's what qualifies as a new DC. I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even begin to guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even simplifying it, relatively speaking, going from New 52 to Rebirth, there's an understanding there that post Convergence, post Wally West coming back, post Pandora getting vaporized, post Dr. Manhattan doing whatever the hell he did, that there's elements of everything being in continuity, which that's all well and good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a fan of everything mattering. I'm a fan of everything being on the table. But the message I got from that wasn't so much let's respect our readers and our longtime fans and the people who have invested time, energy, sweat, money into following these characters that they love so much, and more editors don't want to do their jobs and they're afraid to tell writers what they're not allowed to write. That's what Rebirth was to me at the
Right.
end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I went into Rebirth so excited because, I've covered Rebirth as a standalone Chris's on Infinite Earths episode, and there's a scene in there that literally brings me to tears every time I read it, every time I think about it, because of what it means to me as a comic book fan. It's a scene that when Jeff Johns did the trailer for Rebirth, he almost started crying during it.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a powerful scene. And in a vacuum, it summarized everything I love about DC Comics and everything I love about comics in general. And then we jump ahead a couple months. And it's like, oh, well, Justice League is out. And it's, oh, they're going up against the Suicide Squad because there's a Suicide Squad movie coming out. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And oh, okay, well now all the characters look like the movie counterparts. All right, great. Oh, now there's that the Watchmen, the comedian's button. We're finally going to address that. Oh, only we're not. It's going to be a trailer for Doomsday Clock, a 12-issue series that took 18 years to come out.
Ouch. Oh boy.
And it's like nothing matters.
Mm-hmm.
In saying that everything matters, I'm a cynicist. I'm a pessimist. The glass is, this bottle's half empty right now. I see it as they're just they just don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
If everything matters, then nothing matters.
Okay.
Back in my day as an X-Men fan, people were fighting on Usenet. Oh, we want Magic back. We want Doug Ramsey back, and it was always like these little carrots on a stick that Marvel can do. And people were like, oh, maybe this is a story where Magic is brought back. Oh, there's a reference to Magic. It's awesome. Now Magic's been back 100 years and nobody gives a crap.
Yeah. Well.
Now Doug Ramsey's been back 3 or 4 times and nobody gives a crap.
Okay.
It's like Stan Lee was famous for saying, never give the fans what they think they want.
Right.
Unfortunately, the fans grew up to become pros.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeff Johns is able to bring Hal Jordan back and be able to bring Barry Allen back, and suddenly nothing matters anymore. And then it's like, oh, we don't like that bit of history. No, now we do. So bring it back. but it's on top of other history. Who cares?
Hmm.
The only people who care are people who are talking to each other on YouTube or on podcasts right now.
Well,
And they're not going anywhere.
right.
They're going to buy this crap until the day they die.
Well, real quick, man, let me just kind of read a couple of more bits from his email because he actually
Oh,
writes,
yes, please.
yes,
Please do.
shut up. All right. Yeah, there you go.
I
Silence,
speak no evil.
knave. Back to Eric's email here. He wrote, sometimes editors' notes will refer to Batman Year 1 and sometimes Batman Zero Year, as well as the famous three
Mhm,
crisis events within our present day comics. But he's not
mhm.
sure that's true. While Rebirth did add some prior continuity back, he feels that these are just new 52 characters with updated histories, despite Convergence sending everyone back to change the outcome of the Crisis of Infinite Earths and, your favorite, the Doomsday Clock. Okay, and then he ends with what?
Doomsday Clock was a great story.
Okay.
I mean, at least for the first 8 or 9 chapters. But I mean, I have no hate toward it.
Mm-hmm.
It just took forever to come out.
All right. It did take forever to come out, but I loved it.
Hmm.
I loved, but it took. Oh
Oh, yeah.
God, yeah.
It
Um,
took an age.
and he wrote, "Do you feel that the post-crisis ended with Flashpoint, and even though Rebirth gave us back some prior continuity, it's still a new Earth with a new 50 characters, or do you have a different take entirely?" He doubts there will ever be one specific answer, but it's good to hear others' opinions. He's looking forward to the next
Hmm.
episode. And Eric, I thank you for the topic that I
Absolutely.
replied to him. Are you really interested in our answers, or do you want to see two grown men melt down on YouTube Live? To which you are totally,
Melting down.
yeah. There you go. But anyway, any further response to the remainder of his email?
What he says about the characters we have now being just the new 52 characters with
Mm-hmm.
elements of past continuity is probably true. Um, I hate to cite something like a wiki as being gospel
Mm-hmm.
because they're not. But if you were to look up, just go to the DC wiki and look up Batman, there's going to be like a Batman mainstream universe, 2011 till present, which includes the new 52 into Rebirth into to today. Everything else is before that. It's post crisis. So who knows what happened, what didn't happen, how many times it happened. Um, they change the timelines so often, even in the linear timeline, they change it up. I've recently been reading some of the lead up to Nightfall, and in certain issues of that, Batman is wearing the Superman armband because it came out right after the death of Superman. So Oberon handed out all the armbands, and Batman got one, and he's wearing one in his own book. But now, Nightfall happened before the death of Superman, so it's like there's no rules anymore.
Yeah, I follow you.
Yeah, so it's like it's so hard to invest. It's so hard to care. Um, I used to know this stuff chapter and verse, and now it's like I throw my hands in the air. It's like I just don't know what's what.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what carried over. I don't know what carried over from New 52 to Rebirth. I don't know what carried over from post crisis till now. Even in the early New 52, it's like, was Tim Drake Robin ever? Maybe. Depends on who wrote it.
Yeah.
Sometimes he was just Red Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he was Robin. Did Superman die in the New 52? Sometimes. Sometimes he did. Um, it really doesn't matter. Was there ever a Wally West? Sometimes. What about a Donna Troy? Maybe. Who knows?
Well, I mean, Chris, this is really the hardest thing, especially for fans of our vintage, to
Hmm.
accept and go with is the death of continuity, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now, Eric in particular, he was talking about these events: Crisis, Final Crisis, Flashpoint,
0 hour.
0 hour, right?
Hmm.
And something that we have agreed upon in the past was, I think initially, and let's just stick to DC here,
Hmm.
as that was pretty much the focal point of his email anyway.
Sure. And
Intent,
Marvel really isn't. as bad at that.
Okay, right.
Marvel just doesn't care. They don't. They're not.
Well, I mean, speaking of Marvel, before I go into what I was going to say, I mean, the
Mhm.
famous memo from Jim Shooter about the continuity. Do you remember
Oh
that?
yeah.
Yeah, you know, so there was
Hmm.
someone at one point in time who cared. Um,
We need a Jim Shooter again.
no, we
Yeah,
don't. But the DC
we
stuff,
do.
right?
We do.
Okay, all right. Well, there we go. We can fight each other over that
We'll
later.
put a pin in that.
Yes, that's the. We're gonna have to name this episode. Put a pin in it. But I think the intentions were pure initially, right? Let's go back to Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Hmm.
about fixing continuity, right? That
Sure.
was the goal. Now sales are great and everything
Hmm.
else. You get an event out of it, wonderful. But I mean, I think everybody involved was like, dude, we got a mess here. We got a bowl of
We
spaghetti.
got to fix it.
It spilled all over the
Yeah.
floor. Let's clean it up, you know?
Yeah.
And then as time progressed, I think that due to the success, of course, of Crisis of Infinite Earths,
Mhm.
while some of the intentions still might have been fairly pure behind them as far as like tidying things up a little bit,
Sure.
it just kind of gave way to, well, if we, okay, for one, let's say Flashpoint, for example, we're
Hmm.
introducing a new version of Batman, and guess what? It's Thomas Wayne, and oh boy, that's going to be gangbusters. That's going to sell like crazy. And people, their minds are going to be blown over this, and speculators are going to freaking have an orgasm
Hmm.
over this kind of stuff.
First appearance.
There you go. You know what I mean? And then as things trickle down, it was just even less about fixing anything, just relaunching, rebooting things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so all those original sentiments of doing something right by continuity went away, and
Mhm.
as such, continuity has died.
Oh yeah.
You had said
It's no
like
longer earnest.
no,
Yeah.
and that's a hard thing for people who grew up with, and as you had said, you knew inside and out. You read, for
Hmm.
example, bringing up Marvel Saga or something. You know what I mean? That
Hmm.
would give you like this
The
timeline
timeline. Yeah.
exactly on how things happen and what
The
mattered,
chronology.
and you know, or
Hmm.
if you looked up the Marvel indexes or who's who in
Oh yeah.
DC. You knew all these things about the
Sure.
characters for all, and that was your Bible. You know, that's
Trading cards.
there you
Yeah.
go. That was it, man. And that was your fabric, right down to your core. As a
Hmm.
fan, you knew everything. You couldn't be stumped, right? Now we know less than ever before. Um,
Nothing. Yeah.
and I'm sure it turned a lot
Yeah.
of fans away. They were like, hey, without continuity, I'm gone. So to be a comic book
Hmm.
fan now and be of this wonderful age range that we're in,
Hmm.
you either have to accept that, the continuity's gone. And as you had brought
Or
up,
hate read.
or let's try to avoid that. But still, like you brought up the head canon is what matters. That's something I pretty much
Yeah.
live by. I swear by it.
I know that's where I got it from.
Yeah,
That was a Dave
there
coined
you go.
term.
What happens
Yeah.
here is what matters to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Not to just completely disregard all the contributions artisans have made to the comics over the
Mhm.
years, but it's just so hard to keep track of now because everything is
It's
just washed
ridiculous.
away and changed, and each
Hmm.
writer can have their own take and version of everything with no regard to what came
Yeah.
before or what's going on in for example, if you have Wonder Woman Superman book or Superman Wonder Woman, whatever the case may be, and the Superman book, two different things could be happening in those
Yep.
books. They're not much like a la
They're not
Jim
connected.
Shooter's
Yeah.
email. They're not connected at all,
Yeah.
and they might not ever be
Oh yeah.
referenced again. You know.
Yep.
Now Eric also brought up things like Convergence, and I think
Hmm.
Convergence was not a good event, but it was kind of neat because
Hmm.
it brought back a Superman that we cared about. You know,
Of course.
to the New 52.
Yeah.
So that's a part of my head canon. You know what I mean? Well, the rest
Hmm. Oh yeah.
you know, that doesn't really matter to me. You know, do I care that Swamp Thing fought Red Rain Batman in Convergence Swamp Thing? No, no. It was
Yeah.
just an excuse for.
Convergence. Here's 55 Gotham
There you
cities.
go. You know what I mean?
Go play.
Yeah. So it's kind of like your personal preference where we are now, and if dude,
Yeah.
if you're someone who is thinking you can kind of put your finger on continuity as is today,
Mm.
I hate to say it, but either you're completely and utterly delusional or you're
Yeah.
a
A genius.
savant. Yeah, exactly. You're Rain
Yeah.
Man. What has happened
Yeah.
here? Like, please, explain to me. what's going on.
Help
And
us.
Eric had brought up like editor's notes might bring up things. I think that's more of just like whimsy. Like, oh, as you saw
That's
way
just a
back.
callback.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, Smile and Stan. Yeah, it's a callback.
right, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I don't know if we gave a proper answer to his email, but it's definitely a good
I mean, we
topic.
can prepare too. I mean, we can prepare and try to navigate this in future episodes for
No,
sure because
no, no,
I
no, no,
think
no,
it's a
no.
good
It
conversation.
is, but it's like I said, it's like scaling Everest. You know what I mean? It's only
Yeah,
for a select few.
it starts with one step.
It does, and halfway up, you pass out and you die. Not enough
That's
oxygen.
okay. I'm all right with that.
Okay.
This is the hill I want to die
All
on.
right. There you
This is
go.
what I want on my tombstone.
Yeah.
Died in the infinite earths.
Yeah. Well,
Perished in a white event.
well, I mean, either way, those are our opinions on the matter. I mean,
Hmm.
loosely, kind of impromptu. But
Yeah,
yeah,
unprepared for sure.
yeah. But trying to
But
streamline all that, oh god.
because Crisis was done earnestly.
Mm-hmm.
Wolfman, as we talked about earlier, came through the fan press. The fan press was they were the continuity cops back in the day.
Right.
Now, I consider us fake ass fan press. We podcast, we record, we write. Um, when we try to continuity cop, we're called man babies and gatekeepers. It's a different world now. Where in the 70s when Wolfman and the gang were doing it, it was cool. It was like, okay, we're keeping the creators honest. We're keeping them on task. I remember reading about Mark Waid where he had like a stack of index cards. Like every time he bought a comic, he would write about it on an index card, and he would track his continuity through these index cards, which is like the nerdiest thing in the world to do, but also one of the coolest things you can do as one of us. Because that's how much this stuff mattered to him. This was lore. This was, comics are sometimes called like the modern day, fairy tales or myths, the modern day Robin Hood, right?
Yeah.
And fandoms, the fans can be precious. I know I'm definitely very precious, but there's an endearing element to that, an endearing quality. So Wolfman does his thing, winds up, the omelet's made, but there are a couple of eggs still cracked, right? There are a couple of broken eggs there. Case in point, the retroactive Earth 85. Earth 85 is the world that came out, books that just don't fit anywhere. Like they take place in the post-crisis, but still with pre-crisis sensibilities. So like there'll be an issue of Detective Comics with a wacky pre-crisis Joker in it, but it came out post-crisis. There'll be an issue of Batman with Catwoman in her Silver Age costume, but it takes place in the current day before year one where she was reintroduced. All these stories just didn't fit. And with fans turned pro, there needed to be a reason for that. There needed to be an answer for that, I guess. Then you move forward into Zero Hour, where things were they tried to fix other things, but wound up
Mm-hmm.
breaking a lot more things. It's like the big one was like, we need to fix Hawkman. Cool, okay,
Mm-hmm.
fix Hawkman.
Yeah.
But in so doing, they also did a lot with the Justice Society, and they made the main mistake of having that little fold out page in Zero Hour number zero, which had a timeline, which was contradicted less than a month later.
Yeah. Right.
So, from there, we didn't get a crisis until, the fake crisis, Identity Crisis, which really wasn't one. Then Infinite Crisis brought everything back, kinda,
Mm-hmm.
through the Jeff Johns prism of what he liked. It's insane.
Yeah, but
And
that's
then Final Crisis.
you just said Jeff Johns' prism and what he cared for as a fan who grew up and became a writer
Yeah.
is as a
Oh,
modern
yeah.
day collector now
Hmm.
and continuity being gone. That's what you're buying into if you're buying anything at
Hmm.
all. It's just the
Sure.
writers or the stories that you like. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that's what
Yeah.
it's all it is now. Because
Yeah.
everything is gone,
Yeah.
so that's what you're
Everything is
spending your
gone.
dollars on. You know.
1995, there was a group called Heat,
Mm-hmm.
the Hal's Emerald Assault Team or something like that, or whatever it was. The people who wanted Hal Jordan back. and they were like they would get like full page mocking articles in Wizard, making fun of them for being dorks.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Johns probably wasn't a card carrying member of that, but had a lot of their same
Yeah.
sensibilities. He brings back Hal Jordan and is critically acclaimed by the same damn magazine that was saying telling people to grow up and let things go.
Yeah.
It's I guess it all depends on who's paying the bills. I guess
True.
I don't know.
And who the hell wants to fix Hawkman? Who cares about Hawkman? Who?
Mm.
Who out there actually gives
And
a crap about Hawkman?
Hawkman has the easiest way to fix him. He has multiple lives.
Mm-hmm.
He's reincarnated all the time. There's your out.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we need to fix it.
Well, there is going to be some fanfic coming soon on Chris is on Infinite Earths. Some hot Hawkman tales. There's some heat for you.
Mm-hmm.
Get ready. Prepare
Oh yeah.
yourself. You know.
Hawkman's eternal attribution team. I don't know. We'll get there. I'll work on it.
All right. So, Eric, there you go. Our apologies. We probably did not answer anything at all, but keep those emails coming. Even if you sent an email and we've read them, we still want to hear from you. So, badabinchshow@gmail.com. Make sure you check that out. Check it out. Write to it. Don't check it out. Checking out just kind of indicates you're looking at it.
That's what we would do.
Yeah. We be checking out your emails. So, there you go. This is why I'm not a famous human being, because I have the inability to speak, yet I continue to do so in public forums. So
that's an East Coast thing.
I think, it might be. It might. I think my accent has slipped out a few times during this program too. My New Englandese.
It happens.
All right.
It happens. And some people ask if I'm from Boston, and I get greatly insulted.
Oh, why? It's a wonderful place to be from. I'm not from Boston in particular, but why would you be so wounded?
I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah. New York.
Sometimes I get New Jersey, and that's worse.
Oh yeah, that's terrible. I've lived in New Jersey. That place stinks. You know, I've heard.
Literally.
I've heard it described as the armpit of America. Nothing could be further from. Actually, it is the truth. New Jersey, you stink. There we go.
I mean, I lived on Staten Island with the dump, and it smelled better than Jersey.
I just totally alienated part of our listening base, our viewership from New Jersey. I'm sorry. So there you go. Email us, defend New Jersey, and maybe we'll take it all back. Now,
yes, we'll have the Garden State apology tour.
There you go. Now, we have been doing a lot of, we talked about this. Last time we talked about this. In private conversations, because we are friends and we text each other all the time, we talked about this. So I kind of want to wrap up the show today with revisiting something that we have, in fact, talked about in private.
Okay.
And
you told me we were going to do this, but didn't tell me what it was about.
Correct. So, I wanted it to be a surprise, so you couldn't come up with a. Well, actually, this is probably a terrible segment to follow up an email thing that we didn't prepare for. I gave you no preparation on this one, but I know what your answer was.
Nothing in the can.
Nothing in the can. I know what your answer was before in private conversations. So now,
I don't know if I'll need a reminder or not.
Well,
we'll see.
We shall in fact find out. But
I talk a lot.
You do. And actually, since I am urging people to contact us and write to us and let us know things, this is also a great question to pose to the audience as well. There we go. There we go. It's better than a, what are the name of those logs that go into your fireplace, those quick ones? There's a brand.
Oh, the starter.
Yeah, but there's like a brand. And
the fire starter? Oh, yeah. Duraflame?
Duraflame. Duraflame actually has a brand called Tonight's the Night. And there are 2 silver foxes on the wrapper. It kind of...
is it us?
No. It is a man and a woman. And I was thinking to myself... I'm sorry, this just came out of my head out of the blue. That imagine if you bought a Tonight's the Night log from Duraflame, went home, started it, you and your significant other did not get jiggy with it. Could you sue them?
Could you get your money back? Yeah.
Something. Because, I mean, really...
False advertising.
They're implying tonight is the night. I mean, I just assume that means, little nookie. Maybe for someone else...
It's an aphrodisiac.
Right. Maybe for someone else, tonight's the night to eat pizza and watch, I don't know, Something on Netflix. I have no idea. But anyway, back to the original topic at hand.
Yes.
So we are both big time, mega, huge. We love it. Superman fans.
Arby's.
No, no, not Arby's. But I once asked you, Desert Island, you can only have one. There can be only one. Or there can only be one, whatever the case may be. Highlander. But, Superman artist. Greatest Superman artist, in your opinion, of all
I do remember this.
time.
I remember this conversation because I changed my mind in mid-answer.
There we go. And I want to see if you might perhaps change it again now that I am forcing you to talk about it in such a forum as YouTube.
Sure. I think the original answer I had was John Byrne, but I quickly changed that to Dan Jurgens.
Really? But why? Why the Jurgs?
Well, Jurgens is I mean, he is what if I close my eyes and picture Superman, it's drawn by Dan Jurgens.
Well, I mean, that's simple enough. That's a good enough reason.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, it's and so many seminal stories. Like I said, when you're 12 years old, ain't nothing better in your hobby. 1992, Death of Superman.
Okay.
Dan Jurgens was the man at that point.
Right. Now, you do realize some people would argue, okay, but let's talk about longevity. Let's talk about iconic
like
images.
A Kurt Swan?
Yes. There we go. Like Kurt Swan would, of course,
who wrote it for 150 years?
Yeah, exactly. right. Which was actually coincidentally a little shorter than it took for Doomsday Clock to come out. So
just a few months.
Just by a few months. But anyway, yeah, so there'd be an argument for that. But I love how you just said you close your eyes and in your brain, first image that comes up is a Dan Jurgens image. I will say this, though. I think Dan Jurgens was heavily reliant on who was inking him.
Art Thibert.
There you go. Boom. That's magic, baby. That's the special sauce right there. Those two together, boom.
Magic.
Unbelievable. Just great. So we're going to go with, for you, Dan Jurgens, John Byrne, bing, bang, boom. But Dan Jurgens.
Yeah, maybe oddly enough, Ed McGuinness under that.
Really?
Ed McGuinness has a special place in my heart.
It was a fantastic era, but he has such a unique, I think, take.
And I loved, because it was a weird time in Superman because it was post the Y2K story. So it was suddenly a place where Superman was no longer the most fantastic thing in Metropolis. Metropolis, in and of itself, was insane.
Yeah, of course, the B-13 technology and what have you. Too.
Sure. It was truly the city of tomorrow. So Superman was just kind of there, but the way McGuinness drew him, he was still larger than life. Literally, I mean, he was just inhumanly massive. Even as Clark Kent, he looked ridiculously large.
Right.
But you could spot him, and you knew he was special. And when he was in the costume, forget about it. It's like, okay, well, this city is phenomenal, but that dude's the man.
Yeah.
You know, it was very, very special. And it's the McGuinness run was what brought me back to Superman.
Yeah.
Seeing that was just like, holy cow. That's because I dropped it right after the return, you know. And then it was like Electric Blue, and I'm like, so that was what, Ron Friends, was it?
Yes, Ron Friends and Sal Buscema.
And that looked,
you've dissed.
And that looked so, Sal Buscema. It looks very dated to me.
It does, but
looks early 80s Marvel, and it's like, that just doesn't belong in a DC book, especially one near the turn of the century, at least to me. So it was kind of, didn't look great to me. And then like Stuart Immonen, who was still very, very loose at the time.
Yeah.
I've grown to like Immonen's later work, but early on he was very loose. But then McGuinness was just like, oh my God. That's special. That's fantastic. So yeah, I guess it would be Jurgens and then Byrne and McGuinness.
Yeah. You know, even though I only asked you for number one, you go the extra mile.
I overachieved.
Actually, I'm the one who brought it up. I'm like, oh, so you got Jurgens here, Byrne here, and you're like, oh, Ed McGuinness, baby. So, and Ed McGuinness, I like too, because it was, yes, very indicative of the era, right? So when you see his Superman, you're like, bam, dude. Yeah, the Y2K stuff, B-13, you know yeah. But one of the things that you said you liked about McGuinness is something that okay, I like his art as a whole, but the bulkiness of Superman was a little too much for me. I actually have, I hope I don't drop it, an Ed McGuinness Superman statue right
Very
here.
nice.
Yeah, let me see if I can go full screen.
And he actually looks smaller there.
Yeah, you think so?
He actually looks lean. He did a cutting diet there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah. He dropped carbs for a bit.
Yeah, but I do think he was a little too bulky for my taste.
Hmm.
Just overall. Everybody's tuning in to see if I'm going to drop this. That's what people want to see. Dave,
That's it.
drop it, you fool, you failure. Drop your figures.
The only Superman figure I got here is my little duck.
There you go. That can go in
I
the
don't think this
bathtub
is Ed
with you.
McGuinness.
Yeah. Now, what was I
Yeah,
saying?
this might be a Patrick Gleason. I don't know.
Oh, okay. But hey, McGinnis is great. Byrne, of course, is just absolutely iconic. Dan Jurgens, we just
Mhm.
talked about, I think was reliant on inker. Now, when I think of artists that are the most reliant on inkers, number one is going to be Jeff Purves of Incredible Hulk fame.
Hulk. Yes. Yes.
Dude,
Hmm.
but so Dan Jurgens is nowhere near that category. It's like we had talked about the Milgram line for artists. We have to create
Yes.
another scale or chart or presentation
For
based
the
on the
inker. Yeah.
inker, like who needed that more than anything.
The Bear line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. Right. Um, but yeah, so that's a good thing. I'd like to see what other people have to say about that as well. Like, who is your all-time favorite Superman
Well, who
artist?
was yours?
Oh well, thank you for asking. It took a while, but thank you very much. I'm gonna go and
I think I know.
you
I
do
think I know.
because my answer has not changed since we had
Hmm.
talked in private. But I would
Hmm.
totally go with Jerry Ordway, the
There
Ordster.
he is.
I love me some Jerry Ordway.
Jeremiah.
And that's one of those things too where I kind of had the internal debate a lot with Jurgens and Ordway, and
Hmm.
for me, that's also stemming from that '90s era where
Sure.
the other thing too. Okay, if anybody's ever read the Superman Exile storyline, which is the original War World, which is a hard thing to say, before PKJ, Philip Kennedy Johnson, retread the whole thing in a much lousier, horrible fashion. That
And it was
and
endless.
that was longer than Doomsday Clock in the pages of Action Comics recently. Anyway, that original. Actually, I think I have it right here. I might be able to find the image because I can do things physically here. I can't reach it.
This one.
Oh yes, you have it. Okay, so when he and it's a very cheesy scene where he rematerializes his costume, but he's got the
Hmm.
beard and he's like
Yes.
standing. Dude, that to me is like just an incredible image, and I love it to death. Here, let me put you full
This
screen
one.
so people can see it. Hold on. There it is, baby. That to me, that's when I close my eyes. But still, overall, if I want to read something, I want to see Jerry Ordway drawing it.
Ordway's fantastic. Ordway. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, he's really really good.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of his. I kind of, closing my eyes, I kind of see him and Jurgens very similar
Yeah.
in the way they depict Superman. I don't know if we would call it a house style back
Mm-hmm.
then, but until like Bogdanov came along, it was very not so much interchangeable, but steady.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where Bogdanov kind of, I hated Bogdanov when I was a kid, but I've come to really appreciate his work as an adult. But it was so different,
Mm-hmm.
it was like almost like sketchy and blocky.
Oh,
It's just
big
very
time.
different from the other
Huge.
books. Yeah,
And the first time I'd
yeah,
seen his work, I think, was during the Extinction Agenda. Um,
yes,
and seeing that with like X Factor and stuff, and I was like, whoa, this is just like so loose. It was like staying with the whole X theme. Larry
hmm
Stroman, uh,
oh, on X Factor
X
actually with
Factor.
Peter David. Yeah,
Yeah, his stuff was like that really loose, kind of not really
yeah,
solidified
but
art.
still angular. Yeah,
Yes, but that's how I felt about
hmm
Bog too, where I was like, I don't know. And
sure.
and even then, Man of Steel is probably my least favorite Superman title. We all know
Hmm.
I have a disdain for Mark Schultz's writing, but even then, before when it was Louise Simonson, the story was
Yeah,
fine enough and everything was connected so well. But as a younger me, Bog just wasn't what I was
wasn't it?
looking for, and really he
Yeah.
was one of the guys or the architects of that bulkier Superman before Ed McGuinness came
Oh
along
yeah,
too. You
for
know,
sure, for sure.
so yeah. But that's great, man. That's some good answers from me and you. Here we go. I'm saluting both of us.
Hmm.
We both did great. We're both winners. There you go. Pat yourself on the back. And yeah, we didn't bring up anybody else. We kind of stuck to the same era. because we're biased,
Mm-hmm.
and we said these are the artists that
Mm-hmm.
deserve to be the greatest Superman artists of all time. It's them, nobody
That's
else.
it. Sorry, Kurt Swan.
There you
You're
go.
great, but
Yeah. I mean, Neil
you're
Adams drew
great
a
but
lot of
safe.
great covers, iconic covers, but I've never been a
Sure,
Neil
sure.
Adams fan.
Same here.
Yeah, not really,
Um,
not
I,
really my
I I
thing.
I feel like he's a little liney and like a lot of lines, a lot of extra lines.
Mm-hmm.
I think he informed a lot of the early Image stuff. I think the early Image guys were huge Neil Adams fans and went to the school of more lines the better.
Yeah, right. All right, well, groovy. Um, I think that's all I have for our show notes, the stuff I wanted to cover today. I mean, we kind of came up with a lot of opportunities for new segments in the
Sure.
future. I know you said you didn't want to
Hmm.
become too formulaic, and we are a very unscripted program where I guess we can show people how the sausage is made. Look at that. It's got notes written on a piece
it,
of paper. Just loose, written in pen, not even typed. But I did.
it was that's on the back of the
There
Constitution.
you go, man. Yeah, Nick Cage is
That
going to
that's a
find
movie
it.
reference, I
Yeah,
think,
it
right?
is. Which is very
There you
rare for
go.
you. Actually, it's something we can talk about in the
Mm,
future too. Why you hate
we
superhero
can.
movies, you know?
Okay,
Because
we
I
can.
use the word
Yes.
hate because you absolutely hate them. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm.
But if
That might be too soft a word.
yes, but my point was, if anybody has anything in particular they want us to talk about, yet again,
For sure.
we've said ad nauseum how you can reach us. If you,
And definitely join the conversation that we've already had.
yeah,
We want to hear your guys' thoughts as well,
yeah.
for sure.
I know I kind of sucked at it, but I like reading emails.
That was all good.
It's better when I read them silently than when I try to do it live, but
Well,
still,
words are hard.
I'll
I,
improve.
I know that firsthand.
Yeah,
Words are hard.
we'll work. I'll work on that because you were just simply perfection, my friend. There you go.
Hey,
Yeah. So
I am what I am.
I am what I am. All right. Well, Chris, do you have anything else you want to add or anything you want to say to
No,
people
no,
before
I
we
think
split? Because we've been on the air now. This live stream has been 2 hours. Holy moly.
we're feature length.
Yeah, I know, right? See, you hate movies. You just started one, sucker.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there is
Mm-hmm.
one thing I want to say before I go because I want to acknowledge other people that have commented real quick. I left off with Bill Beard. John Coos wrote, very cool. What you guys say resonates with me. Masshole Chef just commented, fire. And, Jody Yurden also came back. Look at that. What a great way.
Yes.
He's bookmarking, bookmarking, bookshelving, whatever the hell you want to call it. These Superman artist choices are all great ones. So thank you,
Awesome.
Jody, for sticking around for the whole two
Is he
hours.
is he time stamping?
I don't know what he's
Is
doing.
that the word we're looking for?
Maybe. I was going to say book end. That's what I was searching for because he was our first
There you
comment
go.
and he's our last comment. But
There you
yet
be.
again,
Oh, thank you all so much for having lunch with us today.
hmm
This is a lot of fun.
and what do we say about maybe next time or same time next week?
Give it a try for
Do you
sure.
have anything
For
going
sure.
on? You got any big plans? You robbing a bank?
The only the only thing that's sure about me is that nothing's for sure.
Right on. All right. Well,
I am ethereal as the day.
here we go. All right. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us today. As Chris had
Mhm.
called it, sharing lunch. I didn't eat anything, but I drank a whole bunch of coffee. So now
Had a lot of water.
there you go. So you know what's calling both of us right now, the
Hmm.
porcelain god. So anyway, thank you all for taking the time. Appreciate you, and I guess we'll see you next week.